Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom! And welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Mallard Bay. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world famous Andy Shaver.
If you're an outfitter and you need help booking, or if you're a customer and you're looking to book, Mallard Bay can help you out.
Take care of you for all your hunting needs, outfitter or clientele. With us today from Lake Tahoe, Mr. Jamison DeLallo. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
Hell yes. Usually I screw that up. I'm so proud of myself. So you are completely 100% opposite of me. You are a person that takes care of your body, what you bring into your body. Did you get the COVID shot?
No, I didn't.
We are alike then.
Yeah, y'all are
We
identical.
Hey, I'm not perfect. I might look like I take 100% efficiency and all that, but I do enjoy my sweets and my cheat meals.
What's a cheat meal to you?
I mean, I don't even call it a cheat meal. It's just it's food. So I'm a big ultra runner now, or not like crazy ultra run. I'm not doing like 100-mile races yet, but long run days or after on weekends, I'll enjoy like a veggie burrito, or I love pizza. I love dark chocolate. So those are a few of the things I indulge in for sure.
But isn't like dark chocolate is the better of the chocolates for you, right? Like if you had to pick one, it's dark chocolate.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if you're supposed to eat the whole bar.
So just a couple nibbles.
You said a veggie burrito. Do you not eat meat?
It's very rare. I've gone the last probably like 8 years now. I've experimented a lot with strict veganism, vegetarianism, and I say if I eat meat this year, I'll probably be able to count it on one hand. And I mean, I can't even remember the last time I bought meat from the grocery store. So, yeah, if I'm eating meat, I get it from a farmer who delivers my raw milk and stuff weekly. But no beef. I've had beef in probably like 6-7 years.
Wow.
So
it would be like
pork
chicken?
or fish?
Yeah. She had brought me some rabbit last year, which I'd never tried. So actually I enjoyed that. So I'll do rabbit here and there. She brings like, little game hens. Fish. I have clients that will fish in the lake during the summer, so I'll do some trade work for sessions for some fresh fish. But like I said, it's very rare. I'll be able to count on one hand how many times I eat meat this year.
See, I am the opposite. In January I did the carnivore diet, and I felt fantastic actually.
Oh, good. Yeah, I hear a lot of good things. I've heard. I'm in the fitness realm, so I've heard mixed reviews of people feeling really good. I've heard opposites of people feeling like complete shit on it.
Mm-hmm. I was fortunate. I was fortunate because I'd heard the same thing. Like I've heard good reviews and I've heard really, really bad reviews. So I was anxious to see how I was going to feel. I never got the keto flu or anything like that. Whenever my body switched from burning carbohydrates to burning fat, but so a little bit of background on us, like we have a hunting lodge. So I'm up at 3:15 every day and I don't go to bed until 9 o'clock. And it's usually like it's 3:15 in the morning to 9 PM. And, I notice a substantial amount of energy, especially like once I crossed that 20-day mark, I started to really feel like I could go longer into the day and not like really require a nap.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, it's the energy thing. It can hit. I like how you said you had heard other reviews, and I tell people just go try and see what works for you. Obviously, there are trends going on in the fitness realm. I remember reading about, it wasn't even called carnivore diet. I don't think that word was even around when I was in college, but I had read a really good book, and I'd come across these two doctors that had studied with the Inuit, and they observed how they primarily ate blubber and fat and animal tissue. Right. But again, you're up in the ice. This is like your environment is predicting a lot of what you're going to eat. And so these two same doctors came back to the States and were talking to their colleagues about it. And they're like, no, this can't be right. You can't survive on what they were eating. So they went on an experiment for a full year and ate, they did carnivore, but it was very much like eating every single piece of the animal, whether it was a lamb, a chicken, a goat, a beef. They're eating the eyeballs, they're eating the brains, they're eating all essentially nose to tail.
Yeah.
But the findings were pretty cool. It sounded like they turned more caveman, thick hair, grittier teeth, stronger bones, things like that.
Yeah,
so it does have its benefits.
I know. Yeah, because you always hear, you have to have your fruits and vegetables. But if you look at the early human, fruits and vegetables came in and out with the season. Especially if you live somewhere cold, you weren't going to have a garden in December in the middle of winter 300 years ago. So, it's kind of natural for the human diet to shift a little bit depending on, especially when people were hunters and gatherers. Like, you just ate what was around. If you had fruits and berries, then that's what you ate. If you had buffalo, that's what you had. That's what you had to live on. So, I don't know. It's interesting. I like trying different things. With my health and fitness, it's fun. It's fun to try it because I'm very much, especially like during hunting season. It's just, if a candy bar's in front of me and I'm hungry, then let's eat it. You know what I mean? It's just I gotta have something. So to kind of push myself into that, I'd do it again. I would do it again.
Well, like you mentioned, environment is a huge factor when it comes to how our ancestors, or even one of the books I read from the 1930s, this doctor went around and studied a bunch of different indigenous cultures, and you'd find the same racial stock of people that started introducing imported goods from the West. And what you found is, like you said, the environment plays a big factor. I think the couple of tribes or groups that were eating just primarily meat were the Inuit, were the, I want to say it was the Maasai in Africa. They ate primarily, blood, meat, dairy, but they were still eating tubers, vegetables they can find around, honey. I mean, even the Hadza, you have some of these influencers pushing the carnivore diet as the most optimal for people. And then, they'll reference groups like the Hadza, but when you read deep into research with them, I mean, they were eating a 60% plant-based diet. In general, we're omnivorous by design.
Right.
So finding your balance there, but it's funny, humans, we like to go to those extremes.
Yeah.
But I don't hate on anyone eating meat, to each their own. That's my process. And I live with the 4 seasons too. So I even notice, wintertime, I'm craving more cooked foods. I will have broths occasionally. If I do eat meat, it'll probably be more towards that time. And summer coming now, it's lots of fresh fruit and raw veg and stuff like that.
Did we have back in the days before white man came here, when it was just Indians, natives, whatever you want to call them, did they have a high rate of cancer or a low rate of cancer, or do they know? Because I would really be interested, because we're poisoning our own bodies. Cokes, and processed foods are horrible. Anything with corn syrup in it, I think's bad.
Vegetable
oil's bad for you.
Yeah.
But did they have? I would like to know. I know they had cancer forever, but I would be really interested to know what the percentages are of the natives that got cancer back then when they were eating everything was pure.
So I don't know what the rates are. Of course, people like to reference back to our ancestors or indigenous cultures like they were perfect. They were still violent.
Oh,
they
big
still
time.
Had, their shit they were doing. But I haven't read into research from the couple of books I've read. A lot of these doctors that go out, what they'll observe is that you don't see a lot of the chronic illnesses and disease when they were out studying these different groups. That book I was referencing before is called Nutritional and Physical Degeneration by Dr. Weston A. Price. And when he was studying, I believe when he was studying the African tribes, there's millions of people living over these plains in different tribes. I think he mentioned around 2 million people. And he was blown away by, there's no police, there's no mental hospitals. You don't see a bunch of people with dementia, Alzheimer's, all these mental things people get with age. You don't see the physical degeneration. You see very fit individuals. And again, environment is completely different. That's where, even with my movement stuff I teach today, is like trying to manipulate and make your environment a little bit like we used to have, resting on the ground, moving as much as you can. Now we can just walk to the fridge, get in our car to go get some food. There's no caloric expenditure to go get the stuff we need. So I think there's a lot of factors to it. But I think in general, I think we could say that cancer, diseases, and all these sicknesses we see in modern man was not as prevalent in these indigenous people for many reasons too, not just food. You have community, family life, tribal life. You have a support system. You think about just one factor of a woman having a child, that it takes a tribe, to raise a child. You had your tribe, the baby's crying. It's not like, hey, someone go pick up your crying baby. Someone's picking it up. So you don't have as much stress. There's a lot of other factors that play into it. But I definitely believe, I'm not 100% sure from research. I haven't dug into it deeply, but from the things I've read, I don't think it was as prevalent amongst those groups.
I read a deal just now on it. I looked it up. They had diseases, and one of them I don't even know what it's called, trypanosomiasis or neomyces or something, and tuberculosis were really readily.
So tuberculosis, that came heavily to that book I actually read, talked about that, when these indigenous cultures strayed away from eating directly on what their environment provided, and they started intaking these modern processed foods. The guy that was doing the research is a dentist, so he studied teeth. And what blew his mind away was he'd go study these indigenous groups who don't brush their teeth, don't floss, and they had pristine teeth, wide dental arcs, nice wide nasal passages and things like that within one generation. So with the parents starting to introduce things like pasteurized milk, white sugar, white flour, rice and things like this, marmalades, jellies, they started consuming that, they would get cavities, and they didn't have anything to handle that. So those cavities would infect them and would actually wipe out big amounts of these groups because of tuberculosis. So yeah, it's kind of trippy looking in that. You can think of that as possible like conspiracy theory to wipe out natives and stuff like that.
Another disease that really wiped out a lot of natives was herpes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was one of the things that they did.
Diseases.
But you know what the lifespan was when Columbus got to wherever the hell he goes, because he didn't come to North America. Cuba, wherever the hell he was at. Anyways, when the colonists came to America, you know what the lifespan of an Indian was?
36.
35 was pretty normal. 50 was very rare. If an Indian lived to be 50 years of age, he lived a long, long, long time. They obviously never saw Mountain Men and seen Iron Belly in that movie because he was like 140 and still banging squaws. He was living the good life.
But I bet the life expectancy wasn't that much greater with the colonists that got here.
No, I think probably worldwide, you're probably pretty right. I think it was
like, I think if anybody got to 50 back in those days, you were way old.
Well, like giving birth, had appendicitis. I mean, little things that we don't think much of anymore would have wiped them out. But but cancer, they did have some cancer in the Indians, but not much.
Right.
And the cancer that they had the most was breast cancer, cervical cancer, and oral cancer. Were the three main cancers.
I wonder if that could go back to your teeth, to introduction of sugar.
Teeth and herpes.
Yeah.
Another thing interesting that I'd heard.
How far back they date that too.
You can start to see when humans started to consume like cooked meat, because like you said, the teeth were all pristine, but once we started cooking our food, it becomes softer to chew. So therefore, you're not having to use your jaw muscles and your teeth as much because it's easier to eat, and therefore you can make a smaller jaw because you're not having to just constantly like gnaw on your food to get it into a bite-sized chunk to where you can eat it.
Yeah, and from what I understand, that's a factor, and then two, being passed on the genetics from your parents. That's where, with even in one generation of the parents consuming these foods, they would see the children coming out with narrowing of the dental arcs, narrowing of the nasal passages, things like that. Cuspids, crowding of the teeth, where you'd see like teeth coming out between other teeth. So it's kind of a trip to see like that is a factor, but it's primarily passed down from like, hey, how were your parents taking care of themselves? How were they eating? Because that is going to be passed directly onto the child. And then, now you have our modern world smoothies where, everything's super soft and palatable. And you start to see it in the change of the face. There's a gentleman, Dr. Mike Mew, another dentist or oral surgeon, and he does a lot of work with reshaping structure of the jaw through mewing and your own practices with your mouth and where your tongue posture is and stuff like that, because it is kind of a pandemic. People getting like a very fat or flat kind of smushed face and the jaw kind of receding back, as opposed to having more of a nice chiseled jaw from one of the things like you mentioned, eating harder to chew foods or having to masticate our food.
Yeah, it's the way that we have adapted as humans. That's one of the things that's always really, really fascinating to me. and how like you can trace it back, you know, like you said, just one generation later, and all of a sudden we're seeing these problems with dental work in our offspring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's wild. You know, Jeff had mentioned all the cancer and, you know, toxins and things floating around. It's just part of the modern world. I mean, we're taking care of yourself is super important because it's almost hard to avoid these things now. I mean, they talk about like how pervasive glyphosate is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're saying it's in everything now, all of our fields, all of our groundwater, it's in the rain. And these are huge issues. You know, a lot of people have gut and GI tract issues, and I think that's a big underlying factor to that too.
Well, as the only fat guy on this podcast, we are a fat ass society, and it's bad for our whole deal. It's bad. I've lost 90 pounds in the last 5 years. I feel so much better than I did. I need to lose 40 more pounds, and I will feel a whole lot better.
How much have you walked this month? How much did you walk in May?
I don't know. I could look it up. Not as much as I needed to. I can promise you that.
How many days a week did you walk?
I walk every day. You fucking think I fly over here?
So you walk to the truck?
Well, I did. Yeah, I'm not walking laps like I should be. I'm not. I just said I need to lose weight. I'm not. You don't have to get on to me, Michelle.
Well,
but
walking's the most underrated exercise. I tell people. I mean, if all, you know, America, if all they would do is just get up and walk 30, 40 minutes, you know, once, twice a day. A lot of people would feel a lot better.
It's not my generation that's really that bad. I mean, we got a lot of fat asses in my generation. There's no doubt about it. But it's the kids that are so fat these days. I'm telling you right now, you go to a youth baseball game, little league game. You can go any baseball park in America right now, and you see some little fat fucks running around. When I was a kid, there was one fat kid on every team, maybe, and he wasn't even fat compared to today's standards. He was just husky. Every team has got fat kids on them. I play Santa Claus for 2 different deals here. Let me tell you something. Santa's not the fattest kid in the room. It's some of them damn kids I got to pick up that weigh 90 to 100 pounds. When I was in 5th grade, we played youth football. You had to weigh under 85 pounds to play football in Wichita Falls in 1978 when I was in 5th grade. I weighed 83 pounds, and I was a tailback. 83 pounds. Today, you can't find a half of kids that could pass that. How many kids in 5th grade can they weigh under 85 pounds? Half the girls weigh more than that.
Right.
And we are poisoning our kids, but I like to watch old movies. And when I say old movies, I like to watch movies filmed in the 60s and 70s. Steve McQueen movies and stuff. You look in the crowds when they're walking down the streets and shit, they didn't have a deal that said, we just need skinny people. We just need people, we're going to pay them $20 to be on the scene. There are no fat people. Everybody was thin. It's because everybody had to work. Nobody had a cell phone. So when you went home at nighttime, you either worked in your garden or you did something. You just didn't watch TV all day long. We're a lazy, fat society. And since I'm the fat guy, I can say that in this group.
Oh, no, I'll definitely say it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you do. You cross the line a lot. But we have let big pharma, big food ruin our world. And when we were in Canada, we looked at the ingredients on something like chips. And there ain't shit on there. And then I saw the other day they had some kind of something that was in Sweden or somewhere. It was a candy that's here, and they showed the back package of it, and it was like a trail mix, and it was nuts, some dried berries, and something else. Well, the same package in America, you look at the back, it's got red dye 14 or whatever the shit it is.
40.
It's got all that shit in there, and that's we are killing ourselves. And I'm one of the people that's doing it.
Yeah, it's when it comes to the food, as you mentioned, you know, big pharma, big food, agriculture, all of it. I'm not going to get into like who's pushing it and whatnot. I think it's a big underlying factor is our system and how it's run. You know, all these things are for profit, and I think when things like our health, things like our food system, and stuff like that are pushed, and the main focus is how much money can we make off of it, then you know, the consumer's health and wealth is not important, you know, when it comes to bottom line and stocks and things like that. And it's very unfortunate. And, you know, man is greedy, and he wants more. And when he gets a little power, he wants more. And it's why I try to cultivate more compassion around all of this, because it's very easy to get stuck in a negative mind focus of like, why are they doing this? Who's doing it? And, you know, on my path I'm at now at 38, I really just want to continue to lead and do my best on that path to show people there is another way. Because I get it, you know, even for the obese people, we're living in a world, you got to make money to survive. The shitty food is cheap. It's convenient. So it's a pretty vicious cycle and stuff people get sucked into. Because I work with a wealth of people all across the board, Jim Pop. So, I see the stress and I get it. It's hard. It's not easy to maintain your health these days. You're not being supported by the system. It's doing the exact opposite. It's making it harder to stay fit, to eat good, to get mental clarity, to not get sucked into a screen. Everything that's created is based off our behaviors. The food, they make it super palatable. They're making it inside, chemistry labs. You have people that are developing these apps and all the web stuff to precisely to trigger our brain and these reactive things to just get stuck mind numbing and scrolling. So it's, it's a dark force for sure. And I don't know who's running it or who's behind it, but it's, that's why we all need each other.
Eating healthy is very expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. If you go, we for a fat person, my wife's thin, but for a fat guy, we eat at our house pretty healthy. Now, Michelle makes some stuff. I don't eat a lot of sweets like I used to, pies and cakes and stuff, but we eat healthy. We buy fresh vegetables. We buy fresh meat. We cook that way a lot. We don't have a lot of pasteurized food. We got snacks in the house, but we eat fresh food, but fresh vegetables are expensive. I mean, I don't care what you get, and it's garden season now here. So we've got a lady that's got a local fruit stand or a vegetable stand here, and we buy a lot of stuff for the lodge when we do in dove season. But it's expensive, and I feel sorry for people. But for some reason, they push the cheap, nasty foods because there's a lot of profit. I saw where General Mills or whoever owns all the cereal companies, is it General Mills that owns them?
Yeah, they're one of the bigger companies.
$38 billion profit last year. 30. And I'm not one of these people that's into that share the wealth bullshit. I mean, if you're a stockholder in that company, you want them to make a profit. There's no doubt about it. But they are farmers getting $6 for a bushel of wheat. They make 100 boxes of damn cereal out of a bushel of wheat. And the farmer's getting $6 and they're making, what's a box of cereal now? $8, $10? Probably
right around there.
Yeah, well, they're subsidizing everything.
Yes,
it's a big industry with corn. It's very, like I said, it's a systematic thing. It's all very broken to where I hear that farmers are having
they're not making money.
These days. You hear high suicidal rates, and it's tough to keep going, and they're like phasing that out. But then you have this grassroots push too, where people are talking about getting back and growing their own food and having their own little gardens. Here in Tahoe, we got a short grow season, but we got a bunch of boxes out front. We'll grow corn, squash, beans, potatoes do really well. We get lots of lettuces and kales. It's nothing to sustain us on just our own garden, but at least I think getting back into that, and for some people too that are so sucked into the technological world, getting your hands in the soil, seeing that you can grow your own food, it's a very powerful thing. Nature can teach us so much. And just kind of getting back to that would be
we
huge.
Need more fresh markets in towns, because we don't have that where we live, because we live in the middle of the freaking desert basically. So it's our growing season is longer, but we're infested with mosquitoes and drought usually, and bugs and insects and no rain. But we need more fresh markets, because like when I go to a bigger town and they've got a farmer's market, I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I wish we had that here. But we need in our society, we need towns of 3,000 and 4,000 people to all have fresh butcher shops where they bring their own steer in, they butcher them and do everything. But the government gets in the middle of everything and tries to control and regulate every damn thing. And that's what's killing us in these little towns, is getting fresh meat, because it would be a lot cheaper to buy. The farmer would make more money if he butchered his own stuff and sold his own meat. But the USDA don't want him to, because they want to oversee it all. And that's one of our big problems, is the regulation part. I mean, like you got rabbits from that lady. If the government was involved, that lady couldn't give you a rabbit because it's not USDA certified. And that's more the bullshit, because they don't have a lot of antibiotics and stuff jammed into it.
Yeah, that's one of the big things. We're fortunate. It's funny, California is a funny place for government policies. I don't know why we're one of the states that has legalized raw milk consumption, but I'm fortunate to be able to get those few things from our farmer just about an hour away. She even delivers them. But that gets back to, this idea of you're hearing this talked about a little bit more, like you're saying, communal living, tribal living. That's another big issue we have as humans is shoving everyone into these huge, densely populated areas. That's not good for us as humans or in the environment. We're in these little closed off boxes. Our neighbor's one wall away from us and we don't even know our neighbor. There's no community there. So yeah, there's getting back to that. I'm grateful to Tahoe. We got summertime. We had the farmers markets. They come, they all drive from an hour, a couple hours off the hill, and they bring all their fresh produce. It's actually my favorite time of the year is going to the farmers market. It's nice to be able to. I talk to people a lot about voting with your dollar. Being able to go to a farmer, exchange cash for some really good grown food. It feels good and it feels right.
Yeah. Yeah, we went to, we recently got back from the Bahamas, but last year we went to Costa Rica, and there were fruit stands everywhere. I mean, you would drive past 10 or 15 fruit stands in one city. And I mean, it was all fresh, just picked that day, and it was on the market that day. And everybody was shopping there.
And cheap.
Fruits and veggies, right?
America,
I mean, everything. It was just a stand that had everything that they picked that day.
Yeah.
Did you see a lot of fat people
there?
I
remember...
No fat people there either. Crazy, huh?
There was, what were we just speaking about? Costa Rica. Yeah, all the fruit stands down through like Central America, because I've been through Honduras and South America as well. It's absolutely the fruit down there too. The taste is different.
Yeah.
It tastes so good.
We
some of the best mangoes and papayas.
We were kind of let down in the Bahamas with the amount of fruit stands that we had. But yeah, like you're right. Like you put that pineapple in your mouth or that mango, like you said, and just burst with flavor.
What you said a minute ago, in California, you can drink raw milk, or you're not supposed to?
You can. I think it's legal. We're one of the few states where it's legal.
So you can't sell it, but you can have it, is what it. Because I don't know in Texas. Are you allowed to in Texas?
Selling.
I don't know.
I don't know what the selling, like licensing and permitting is, because I know our local health food store, they sell this bigger company's raw milk. Like I said, our farmer, it's just, it's through word of mouth. I got her contact through my massage therapist, and she happened to be taking on a couple new customers. So, I got on the list. Whenever I tell people I'm getting fresh raw goats and raw dairy milk or raw cow's milk, they're always like, hey, how can I get it? Because it's not easy to come by, and it's nice too. It's old school style. She comes, drops it off at my door in glass jars, and I got my milk for the week.
We've got a local dairy that's does glass jars at Valmer Dairy, and they've taken over. But I'm sure they're going to get bought out by somebody big because their market share is really growing out here.
So what's the benefits of raw milk? Just more probiotics in it?
Yeah, this is a big debate on social media. I'm not going to go into it as if I've researched it heavily on both sides. Obviously, the idea of pasteurization is to kill and destroy bad bacteria, or quote unquote bad bacteria, and enzymes and things that are in the milk. They heat it to a certain temperature that destroys it, and then they'll add back in. I forget exactly what they add back into the milk. But the first time I'd actually had raw milk, again, this isn't my consumption of raw milk isn't necessarily based in science and data. It's more so as a lot of things where I'll read and then I'll test and try it on myself. There's people that would say we're insane for drinking raw milk because the risk of like getting sick or even dying type of stuff. People will go find an article from last year of one person that died from raw milk consumption, which, one person in the vast majority of billions is a very, very small amount. It's even like stuff in our health field that we prescribe to people die in the hospital from doctor causes. There's deaths all across the board for many reasons. So it's that little argument of like, oh yeah, a couple people died from it last year. It's like, okay, but it's making a lot of people healthy. It's the difference is, like you said, the raw milk has a lot of the active bacteria, the good probiotic. It's got the good digestive enzymes as well, which is why a lot of people who can't drink regular milk can drink raw milk, because they're actually consuming it with that digestive enzymes and the bacteria and stuff.
Yeah, and it's always interesting too. Like you said, they'll reference an article where one person will die, but they have no problem putting a Twinkie in their mouth.
Exactly.
So it's like,
exactly.
What are you accomplishing here? Like you're just trying to poke holes into this argument just for the sake of poking holes in it, but you're not worried about getting that Starbucks coffee that's got loads of sugar in it.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's the other side of the argument. It's like, you're going to bitch about me drinking raw milk and how bad it is for me, yet you're going to support a big corporate business like Starbucks, having shitty coffee that's probably moldy, with shitty pasteurized milk, with a bunch of sugar, probably having 1,000 calories for breakfast, not even realizing it. So yeah, that's the other thing within people's arguments too. They're not thinking about the whole picture.
That's the thing.
Everyone just wants to argue from like right versus
Right.
wrong. There's no like real substance to arguments, especially through the social media realm. It's very far and few between you can actually get into like a good discussion and debate as opposed to an argument when you're trying to talk to people on social media about an opposing view.
What's crazy to me is how people discount the amount of calories that they ingest just from the stuff that they drink. Like that is crazy to me because people, I guess they've got it into their mind like, well, I'm just drinking it. You know, I'm not eating it, but like your body still has to do something with all these calories that you just put into it.
Mm-hmm. Especially when they're empty calories. You know, I've heard holistic practitioners. Let's say his name is Paul Chek. I've been following. I consider him a mentor. I haven't met him in person, but I followed a lot of his readings and online stuff for years. And he talks about, you know, when we're consuming empty calories like that, how it actually takes away from the body to process and assimilate that stuff and get it through the body, you know, as opposed to where you're eating good nutrient-dense food and that's actually feeding your body. When we're eating a bunch of these empty calories, it's actually like pulling away from your body. Or, you know, we talk about these things getting stored in cancer or tumors and things like that.
So walk us through like what your daily routine is. What do you do? How do you wake up? And then just run through everything from the time that your eyes open.
So my routine as of lately, I've really this last year kind of pumped the brakes a little bit. You know, I turned 38 this past month. I've always been like just a big into my physical body. So, you know, I went through times where it was first thing I wake up at 5, 6 a.m. and I'd be working out in the gym. But now with where I'm at with my movement practice and how I'm training, I am putting a little more importance on sleep. If I don't have to be up super early in the morning, I kind of wait for my eyes to first open. So that's anywhere from like, you know, my bad habit is getting to bed late, but I'll wake up anywhere between 6:30 and 8, you know, and sometimes when my eyes wake up at 6:30, I'm like, hey, my body wants to get up. I'm going to get up. I'll usually just try to take down, like this is my 32 ounces of warm water with some lemon, honey, and a little bit of shilajit. So I'll have my liquids first thing in the morning. And then depending on schedule, if I got to get to clients or calls, if I have time in the morning, I'll go for a morning run. Running is one of my big activities I've kind of fallen back in love with the last few years. My goal next year will be to do my first 100-mile race. My longest one right now is 70. I ran around Lake Tahoe 2 years ago, and I'm going to do that again this summer. It's a 72-mile loop all the way around the lake. So I'll run, get my training in. Then I'm working with clients, you know, on and off throughout the day. I'm very fortunate to be able, you know, to be where I'm at in Lake Tahoe. I was born and raised out here. And to be able to be making it on my own as a movement coach and educator, I feel very blessed because I make my own schedule. So, you know, I'm able to build my own schedule with clients. I can factor in my own training if I need to. So if I have a really busy day, like I'm seeing 6 to 8 people, then I got to really like, hey, be on a schedule where like I got to be up at this time, get this in because I got my shit to take care of during the day. And even sometimes towards the end of the day, like yesterday, I got done with my last client, I think at like 6:15. So I hopped on my mountain bike and got a quick mountain bike ride in. That's something, like I said, slowing down a little bit is more this idea of like, hey, when I have the time, as opposed to thinking like, hey, you need to fill it with work and you need to grind and you need to do something. I'm going more towards the aspect like, no, go do something you enjoy, like, or just get outside, as opposed to just feeling like, hey, I need to grind away and work. Like work will always be there. And kind of like, you know, I ebb and flow with it. There'll be times when I like, you know, get my head down and go to work right away with things and get shit done. But for the most part, my schedule, it's very flexible. You know, my day, my eating, I usually don't eat until I've been a big proponent of fasting since I studied it in college. That's 10 years ago now. So I'm usually not eating. My first meal, if I eat, is at the earliest, maybe like 11. Or for some reason the day before I did like a long half marathon or longer run, and I'm feeling a little bit hungry in the morning, then I'll eat earlier. But I'm usually not eating my first meal until, you know, anytime between 11 and 1 p.m.
And what would that meal be?
You know, sometimes it's my green supplement, a little bit of aminos, and then right now with, like I said, summer coming, it's usually some fresh fruits. Yesterday I did mango, banana, some yogurt and granola with my greens powder, my aminos. Sometimes it'll be eggs. I love scrambles. Being vegetarian, that's one of the animal products I do eat more of. But I haven't actually, in the last couple weeks, I haven't been eating as much eggs as usually. So like I said, it's like I'm not on this consistent, like, hey, my diet's this, I have these 5 meals every day and it's the same thing in and out. I did that bodybuilding meal prepping lifestyle back in my 20s and I got sick of it real quick. I love variety. So as long as it's whole food and it's good, it'll range from, sometimes my first meal will be half a watermelon. It's very different. Last night's dinner was a really good vegetarian or veggie curry with tofu that my partner made. So dinners are usually bigger meals, but it's really simple, man. Like veggie pastas, veggie curries. I love potatoes. I love lentils. I call it poor man's diet. You can get a lot from just beans, rice, lentils, potatoes, and then filling in with, veg and fruits and stuff like that. But yeah, it's kind of my schedule. It doesn't seem like a schedule. It's kind of, like I said, kind of flowing with things right now, but that's just kind of where I'm at.
So let me pick your brain about this, because I started, I also do a fast where I was eating, my first meal was usually around lunch. But what I've noticed is when I don't have breakfast, I have a really bad crash by about 3:00. And what I've researched is that your blood sugar gets so low, and then you have that meal and your blood sugar spikes, and then that causes that crash a couple hours later. So how can I get around that?
Yeah, I would I would try eating a smaller meal, and I try doing different foods. I know you said you're on this carnivore kick, but that's where, again, playing with the variables of what you're eating. Obviously, this just goes to show this is how the human body works, hence why our schedule and how we make it, this not, let's say, just like a 9 to 5 schedule, right? We got to get up, we got to work from 9 to 5 a.m. Let's compare it to back. We'll do our best to say our ancestors are even working on a farm, right? You'd get up, you'd do some work in the morning, you'd probably eat in the afternoon, go back, do a little bit of work, and then it was time to relax and chill. Now it's like, we got to work all day. We got these 8-hour shifts. So we got to eat when people feel like they got to eat when they wake up, they eat for lunch. But every time we eat, the body's going to kick in regardless of what you're consuming. It's going to kick into like a rest and repair and digest state, which is lethargy. Like, oh, I feel like I'm crashing. That crashing is biology. That's normal. Again, it'll be better or worse with certain foods, like, hey, crashing off a bunch of processed sugar, a Starbucks foo-foo coffee, and a bunch of like processed starchy carbohydrates. You're going to crash super hard, and then you're going to go get another coffee to pick yourself up. So what I would do is I'd play with the amount of food. I would even, try pushing the fast. If, you're saying around 3:00 you get that crash, but that sounds like it's after you eat your first meal. So I'd maybe even try, when I first started doing intermittent fasting, like strictly, I would eat my first meal at 2 p.m. And this was when I was, 27. I was probably 195 pounds, big like bodybuilder in college, studying a lot. And when I came across fasting, I actually wrote a paper on it because I was so intrigued by it. The gym bro life and the fitness lifestyle is like, you got to have a meal every 2 hours so you don't lose your muscle. You have to have a pre-workout and post-workout protein to stoke protein synthesis and things like this. And so when I read this, I was like, fuck, I ain't got to carry meals all day with me to school, because I was carrying fucking like a separate bag with just my meals and my water, my liquid, so I wouldn't have to go back and forth from home to school. And I was like, money. I could just go to school with my gallon water jug with some aminos in it, and I could just sip on that till I get home at 2-3 p.m. And then I'll just have a big meal and kind of rest and recover for like an hour. So it's like the analogy of a lion, right? You see lions, they feast, and then they fucking plop over and they're relaxing for quite a long time after they enjoyed their big meal.
Yeah.
It's not like they're not going to eat their meal and then like, oh, we got to go back to work. It's like, no, we got to rest.
And I have noticed, I've tried to cut out most carbohydrates at lunch, because I have noticed, like, if I have like a sandwich or something like that, I've noticed if it's a heavy carbohydrate meal at lunch, like my afternoon is just fucking worthless. Like I'm done. I'm I got to have a nap. My brain's not working. And like you said, because my schedule, especially during this time of year, we'll do podcasts in the morning, kind of like we're doing now. I'll be home sometime around lunch, and then I'll go back to work after lunch and start editing podcasts or getting clips up or whatever. But like, there's just times where it's like, I can't open that computer right now. I'm that tired.
Oh yeah, it's a big thing people notice when they start fasting in the morning is the mental clarity they get in the
Mm-hmm.
morning, as opposed to waking up, having their breakfast, having their coffee. They're noticing they're way more alert. They have way more mental power to get their tasks done in the morning. It's common sense. It's just biology. It's how the body works. When you put food and stuff in there, most of your blood is going to start shuttling down to the digestive tract to start digesting that stuff, assimilate it, and getting it to where it needs to go in terms of the tissues. So you know, it's just how the body works. So we unfortunately live in a world that's not really concerned with how your body works for the best of your health and well-being. We're living in a world where, hey, you got to go make money and people got to get paid. So
Right.
again, it's that profit over everything kind of mentality we have.
So do you do anything with sunlight? Because I've been seeing a lot of research on the importance of getting sunlight as early as you can in the morning to set off your circadian rhythm, and also at night kind of go outside. You know, you don't have to look directly in the sun, but just be outside in the evening time, let the sun go down, because that also sets off your, hey, it's time to go to sleep now, fucker. Quit watching Netflix.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super important. And again, this is I love the just being in the fitness and wellness industry. I love seeing all the trends and like the influencers, what they're pushing it. And again, it's pushing it to make to market or sell something, but it's important. You know, we think about how we used to live. We were never stuck inside these boxes all day staring at fake light from a screen. So yes, of course that's important. But that's where I tell people, as opposed to looking at it as like the sunlight is now looked at for some people who really buy into all this anti-aging stuff, living as long as you can, being, as healthy as you can. It's almost like the sun is sold as a prescription. It's like, no, just like base your life around getting outside. Get outside in the morning. I haven't personally practiced hey, I'm going to wake up intentionally and look at the sun for, 10 or 20 minutes. And hey, at the end of the night, I'm going to go down to the lake and sit at the sunset. I just try to be outside as much as I can. I'm up with the morning sun. I'll get outside as soon as I can. Could I be better at it? Yeah, I'm sure. And I'm sure I would probably notice a difference if I put a lot more intent into, hey, getting sunlight and things like that. But also I'm at a stage where I don't feel like shit all the time. Yeah. If you're someone that's stuck at an office cubicle all day inside, breathing stagnant air, shit like that. Yeah, maybe, and you rarely get outside. Your only time getting outside is walking through the city streets or the concrete jungle to get to and from work and to and from the places you need to go. Then yeah, probably finding a park and getting your feet in some earth and staring at the sun is going to be super beneficial for you. Like I said, I'm sure I would notice it, but it probably wouldn't be like, oh my God, this is
right,
like
because you're outside
my saving grace. Why haven't I not been staring out the sun? Yeah, I'm outside. We just floated the river on Sunday, shirts off, take sun on the skin. That's another big thing right now with sun exposure on the skin, talking about people getting sunburned. Everyone, like, you look at beaches back to the 60s and 70s, you were talking about the obese people, Jeff. Those pictures are floating around of the 60s, 70s, and our current times where you're seeing a lot of overweight people. But other images are being shared too, of where you don't see a bunch of the umbrellas and people covering themselves up. They're exposed to the sun. And again, this is coming down to our diet and what we're consuming that is making us more susceptible to being burned by the sun. And then not having that relationship,
Yeah, and what another thing that's interesting is if you look at the amount of skin cancer that we're seeing now, I wonder if it has something to do with the amount of sunscreen that we're putting on us. Because like you said,
oh, for sure.
Just go out, be smart about it, but let your body absorb the sunlight, and don't get burned to a crisp to where, you're just going to be all fucking blistered up. But maybe we don't need the insane amount of sunscreen that we're putting on ourselves and our kids.
Man, I was talking to a friend the other day. I think since, and this is 10 years ago, probably the last time I put on any sort of sunscreen was my senior year in college. But since then, I think it was when I went to Fiji. I had to study abroad, and I was in Fiji. And yeah, seeing the locals, obviously, they're super dark skin out there. They're in the sun. They have that relationship built, but they were just using coconut oil. And since then, that's all I use is coconut oil and olive oil when I go out in the sun. And then if I know I'm going to be exposed for a long time, then I'll have things to cover myself up. Or if I'm near a body of water, it's getting in the water. Like you said, it's a relationship you need to build. You can't just expect like, hey, it's wintertime, I'm inside most of the year, and then like, hey, I got my summer boys trip or girls trip. and then you wonder why you just get completely burnt with the sun. It's like you need those small daily exposures. So I tell people too, instead of just sitting and staring at the sun, maybe like developing a little practice where you can sit and bare your skin to the sun, because we know the skin exposure is so important too. And then, as you mentioned, I would bet on that, these chemicals we're spraying all over ourselves. I mean, I can smell that shit at the beach. If someone is spraying that spray on sunscreen stuff, I mean, it's the more you get away from using chemicals and all these processed things, man, you start to notice it more and more. And it's got a very you smell it. It brings back like, animals have that sense of whether it's eating or smelling certain foods, whether it's poisonous or toxic, and not to eat it. Humans have that same thing, but I think ours has been highly manipulated and covered up due to all the processed things and foods we eat, the perfumes, the Febreze we put in the house. No one knows what like real natural smells actually smells like. It's where, to the point, modern humans are turned off by even our own body odor.
Mm-hmm.
When your body odor is, that's the way we attract opposite sex and stuff, pheromones. These things are important, but we've been taught to cover them up with a bunch of fake artificial shit. And I was doing that. I was in my 20s using Axe sprays, deodorants. But I started noticing irritation though in my armpits. That's when I stopped using deodorant. And my body, I've kind of had this little intuitive voice that always spoke, and I feel like I always listen to my body's response to things too, as opposed to like trying to cover it up with something else. So, I thank God that I've had that little guiding voice and discernment in my head to lead me on the path that I'm currently on.
So do you use anything as a deodorant or nothing at all? Just wake up and
I use coconut oil and different essential oils. I'll sometimes, I do my lemon water in the morning. So I'll take the lemon and I'll rub that into my armpits. That's a really great deodorant. If anyone wants to try like a natural deodorant, that's a super simple one you could do. Coconut oil is antibacterial too. And then you can, there's all kinds of different essential oil flavors. I really like using Palo Santo. That's a scent that I like to use. So again, you can pretty much use coconut oil, whatever smell you like, and you got your own deodorant. If you want to get fancy, go, we got so many resources. Go on YouTube. You can find people making all their own homemade, natural, organic deodorants. If you want to stop putting chemicals on your skin.
So you said you use coconut oil as a natural sunscreen, sun protector?
I mean, it's only like SPF 4.
Right. But it does.
Not like an SPF 50.
Right, but it will curb some of that. Like you said, like if you're going to be out in the sun, just a little bit of coconut oil and you're not going to get totally burned up.
And if for some reason, like we went to Honduras last year where I know I'm going to be in the sun for long periods of time, then I will get like, the best source sunscreen I can. I mean, it's really expensive when you get the good sunscreen. It's made with, I think the main ingredient for the blocking is like zinc and stuff like that. They'll put like carrot seed oils. I know carrot seed is another one that has a higher SPF than some things like olive oil and coconut. So people who do have fair skin, there are options of other like natural produced oils that can offer a little bit more sun protection and stuff. And there are companies out there doing better to like give us a product that we're not going to be slopping chemicals all over our skin for, like I said, the days, if I'm out scuba diving in another country and I know I'm just going to be out in the sun, I got tattoos on my body too. So I'll put some sunscreen on those sometimes, like I said, I'm very functional when it comes to all these things, even with food, if I'm very functional. Like I tell people I'm a functional vegetarian. If I'm going to a house, someone's mom made a really good home cooked meal, I'm not going to be disrespectful and not eat the food. The only thing I'm super strict on is beef. And that's more for like my spiritual practice I've stepped into the last, 10 years and working with plant medicines and stuff. But other than that, I'll be very functional.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of your plant medicines. I mean, what is I'm trying to figure out how to frame this question. What all can we treat with this plant medicine?
Oh man, that's a very good question. I wish I had an answer to that. I've heard stories and working with medicine people. My current group I work with now, Medicine Man is very brilliant. He was talking about his maestro, or one of his teachers that he learned from in Venezuela. We work very closely. My friends went out and visited this tribe. There's a tribe out there, and He's talked about stories of the tribesmen talking about their medicine man. He healed. The story is just telling me when I was there, actually, there was a woman visiting and she got bit by a very poisonous snake while she was out there. The shaman and medicine man told her, like, hey, you stay here, we'll treat you. But this is a woman from the West. So she didn't particularly believe in it. She's like, no, I want to get to a hospital. I want to get the anti-venom. But the anti-venom in a hospital wasn't just like, a 20-minute drive away. They had to hike out of the jungle, get into a car, drive. So it was a couple hours by the time they got to the hospital. They got there and the doctors told her it was too late. We can't give you the anti-venom. It's not going to work. So in a last minute thing, they're like, okay, we got to get you back. We got to get you back to see our medicine man. They brought her back. By that point, she was bleeding out her ear. She was in pretty bad shape. And the shaman took her into their sacred space, their temple. And overnight, used medicine, chanted, prayed, did his work. And the next morning, she was alive. She had survived through the night. So she had ended up coming out of that. So it has the capabilities you hear. I've heard stories like this from many different shamans that I've worked with. I'm currently now, I have my kind of spiritual family or medicine people that I just work with now. I won't sit with any other people with medicine. But yeah, it's healing. I think more so where I've seen it really work is helping people heal traumas, whether that's traumas put onto them by themselves, other people, parents, mental diseases, depression. Actually, there was a story of a guy recently that went out to our property where we're at in Arkansas, and he's a 25-year-old man, just didn't look healthy, didn't take care of himself. He had a big old tumor growing on the side of his rib cage, apparently. He came in to work with our people, and they said after him being there for 6 days, and of course you get pulled away from society too. Usually these spaces of medicine are very special places. You get a pull away from this life we all know of. 365, go, make money, stress, all that. And when you get pulled away from that and slow down for a minute, that in and of itself is medicine. The space becomes medicine. What I'm trying to get at is it's not just taking these plants that's going to heal you. There's a lot of different factors to it, right? We're a totality, we're a full system. So changing your environment, I think, is a huge one to facilitating proper healing through whatever medicine you're using. So yeah, I guess that'd kind of be my answer to that question, if that did it at all.
So what is each, how does this work? I mean, is it all, I'm trying, I don't know what I'm trying to say here.
All interconnected?
No, not that. It's, are there
is there different
recipes for different ailments?
Okay. So I'm still very much in my infancy when it comes to this. I know it very much resonates with my spirit and soul, though. So I'll just kind of go back. The first time I ever tried a plant medicine, this was probably 8 years ago. Me and my best friend that grew up here in town, we had decided, hey, we're going to quit our jobs and we're just going to buy a one-way ticket down to Costa Rica and head south from there. We didn't know what we were going to do. At that time, he had already tried ayahuasca. I had read about it, and I remember the article I read. I was probably in college. I read this article and it said, once you hear about ayahuasca, it's like the plant's trying to find you, essentially, or there's going to be a point where you're going to meet the medicine. And so before we went on this trip, at the time, this is where it started becoming more of a westernized thing. Westerners were seeking to go use this medicine, whether it was to have a trip or they did hear the healing powers behind it, the ceremonial stuff. So a lot of people were seeking it. So these retreat centers were starting to pop up. So me and my friend were like, let's look at this. That's what we want to do. We looked at it, we wanted to make this trip more about brown bagging it, being minimalistic too, spending only like $10-15 a day on food, housing, and all that. So we're like, we'll skip on that because it was pretty costly. And we're like, we'll see what happens as we travel down south. If we come across it organically, we'll make the decision then and there to do it. So my first encounter was back in 2017 with ayahuasca. And I guess with these different plant medicines, they do have their different things they're used for or to help with. I guess more so with the practice I'm in is we're essentially trying to build this relationship with the medicine and see what the medicine is trying to communicate towards us. I guess I would say that is kind of like the underlying intention behind the use of this within tribe or within their circles and community was like, hey, we're taking medicine as a collective whole. Sometimes, yes, there might be someone sick. We might have our own intention in prayer, but we're going to see with the medicine, we're going to go in with a group or a collective prayer and intention to ask the medicine for information, essentially. That's kind of where I'm at in terms of the use of the medicine. Now, things like San Pedro, which is the Wachuma cactus out of South America, or peyote, which is the plant of the North Americas. Those are both cactus medicines. They call them brothers, actually. And those are more known from my knowledge. Like, again, I'm no expert on this, but my knowledge is they're more of a medicine for the heart, for opening the heart, for making us more gentle and soft. They call these an abuelo. It's a grandfather medicine. It's a little more gentler, like the ayahuasca is an abuela. She has a little bit of a bite. She's, the serpent is associated with that plant. The jaguar is associated with the cactus. So these things, like, there's very deep rooted meaning and uses for all of this stuff. I'm still here at this level of like scratching the surface, still trying to comprehend like what I'm experiencing in ceremony. The fact that I was guided to this place in my life where I'm sitting in circle around a sacred fire with these very devout people. When you come across people who are taking medicine and they're doing it as a service, it's not to go on a trip to heal themselves or anything. This is their service to guide other people back to, spirit, to God, whatever it is you want to call it. At least that's what my experience has been thus far. And the medicine they use from Venezuela, from this tribe, is the leader described it as, it is needed as a medicine to raise and develop conscious leadership. And so that's kind of how I look at it, being able to go sit in circle, sit in ceremony, and then how can I bring this back to my space, to my community, to my clients, to share it in not the same way, but different, but like carry these experiences with me to kind of shine that light. It's like people say, be the light. Mm-hmm. It's like that exact same thing with the medicine. And I'm sure experts in here, or experts in the field of this that have studied it more religiously than myself, could tell you like, oh yeah, this plant's used for that. We know there's plant medicines, thousands, hundreds of thousands of them. But in terms of the ones I use where there is a altered state of consciousness and stuff like that, I would say there's many uses. It can heal cancer, depression, mental diseases, with the right intention and with the right circle and without, manipulation. Because again, this is where we're starting to see plant medicines and these sacred things are now being manipulated and commercialized, which I think turns it into a toxic, a poison.
For the dollar.
It's it got brought up. Yeah, it got brought up in conversation the last time I was out there with my friend. We were talking about even tobacco. Tobacco is a very, very sacred plant to the Native Americans and to people, indigenous cultures in the South. It's the main grandfather spirit. And we see what's been done with that in the U.S. Corn was a sacred food and plant. We see what that's been done to in the U.S. Very manipulated. It's the number one GMO crop. It's an additive in almost all the processed foods we see. So we see how even with plants, and they were even talking about the animal abuelos, these, grandparents, the ancestors and the animals, how those have even been manipulated as well in our modern world. So things that are medicinal, they also do have a shadow side. And, it's the universe, I guess, kind of balancing itself out too.
I'm going to get back to tobacco in a minute. So what was your first experience with ayahuasca?
My first experience.
Yeah, what was that like?
I was so me and my friend, we had just finished our first yoga certification before we left the States. And we Googled yoga work trade and we found this place called Pachamama. And it was this community. And we look up, they offer, you can come in as a work trader. They want you to stay for a minimum 6 weeks to give you a place to pitch your tent in the jungle. You get a discount on food. There's a community kitchen if you want to cook your own food. So we applied for that and got in. So we arrived to this community, not really knowing what we're stepping into. From online, what we see is it's a very it's kind of like a holistic retreat center. They have casitas set up where you can come in, you could do juice cleanses and detoxes. You could do yoga workshops, breath workshops. They did tantric workshops. So they have all these different things going on where people will come in from the outside, pay for these services, pay to stay, kind of like a reset. I did a 10-day silent retreat while I was there, which was absolutely amazing. That was my first time doing that. That was very, speaking of medicine, silence is a great teacher. But yeah, then we're there, and obviously online they couldn't promote that they're doing plant medicine and ceremonies. So we get there just thinking like, oh yeah, it's a cool holistic community. We get to help grow food in the garden. We get to do this work exchange thing while we're in Costa Rica in this beautiful space. So we get there, it's off grid, dirt roads, way out in the jungle. Group of friends 20 years earlier had bought all this grazing cattle land, and the pictures are fucking insane. This was like only 20-year difference. They replanted the jungle, and the thing is just flourishing, dude. When you let nature do her thing, man, she is absolutely amazing. So they replanted this whole jungle. They built this community. They had their own form of money while you're in there. It's really cool. And then, while we're there, we end up finding out they serve plant medicine. And the first ayahuasca ceremony I did was there. And this is a big community. You have like 50-ish people living there year round. You have all the people coming in to pay for the services. And then I think there's like 20 or so of us work traders. And this was my first experience. They do like a debrief the day before talking about it. So this particular ayahuasca experience was called, it was a Brazilian tradition from what I recall. And they called it a white night. So everyone dressed in white. We met in this beautiful temple they have there. They separated the men and the women on separate sides of the room, for the divine masculine and feminine energies. And we take 3 servings of tea. So we go up, we take our first serving. The best way I can explain that was it reminded me of a super heavy, like coming on of an LSD or mushroom trip. I felt like I was melting into the floor. It was like, I felt like I couldn't fucking move. It was intense. But then we go up for the second serving, and the second serving was totally different. I ended up going outside, and I remember I was struggling for like a good hour or two. I was down on like my hands and knees, my head. I had my forehead down, and it was this constant kind of like struggle or battle of seeing. It was like my whole entire reality of the world around me and what I thought I knew about myself, other people, society, the earth. It just all started like breaking and fractaling down in front of me. And it was almost as if I was like falling out of the sky. Like I saw it and I was falling away, and then there was this rope. And I would keep grabbing the rope and like climbing back up. And I'm like, okay, I can let go. And then things would start. And it's like felt like for an hour, like this tug of war of like letting everything I think I know of go to explore the unknown, to like surrender into the unknown. And in that ceremony, it didn't happen. Like there was definitely still fear and resistance. So that's about as far as it went. And then we took a third serving of tea, which kind of made everyone kind of come out of their journey and remember a lot of beautiful like dancing and singing and stuff like that. They had these world-renowned musicians guiding the whole thing with live music. And the other trippy part about that experience actually was I was born and raised Catholic, like very strict Roman Catholic, Society of St. Pius X. And during that ceremony, we had a hymn book, and it had these hymns in Portuguese, but translated to English. And they were all about like Jesus, Mary, Joseph, very similar stuff to my upbringing. So that was like really trippy in my mind to be taking this, plant medicine that I have very little knowledge of at this point in time, and then seeing it intermixed with, this Catholicism. That kind of put me in a place of like, I'm where I'm supposed to be. Like it felt very right. And it felt, I was fortunate. I felt very safe. I've been living in this community for a month at a time already. So I felt very safe in the space. It wasn't like I went and wandered into a jungle with a hut and a few people and a shaman, and it was deep. That happened later on in the trip, actually, though, in Colombia. But yeah, that was my first experience with it, and that was, like I said, almost 10 years ago now, I think.
So did you what message did you get from this ceremony?
Well, that there's more to you than what we were brought up to see, than even just this physical body, our name, our face, our parents, that we definitely go back somewhere after this. This isn't it.
Oh.
It definitely, I would say it was like a shedding. My first few times, I mean, even now with medicine, I feel like it's it's a shedding. It's a shedding of old self. It's a shedding of old patterns, of old habits, of the things that were thrown onto us unintentionally. You know, all of our parents do their best with what they got. You know, I'd like to think most people go about trying to intentionally not harm people, but you know, it happens. And yeah, so I feel like medicine too is a big form of it is shedding, you know, releasing things that don't serve you, stepping into the unknown, surrendering to the power of what it can potentially do and be for you.
How long did this?
And for everyone, that's a little different.
Yeah. How long did this ceremony like stick with you to where like you kept practicing the message that you received?
So, I mean, when I first experienced this, I was 28. You know, my 20s were pretty turbulent times, a lot of partying. I was down in San Diego State. I was going to Vegas a lot. I didn't mess with, you know, any crazy drugs until, you know, late mid 20s, you know, had my first LSD experience, I think at 28. So there was part of me still this like young kind of machismo mindset of like, you know, yeah, let's go take some plant medicine. And like part of it was like, yeah, let's go have a trip. There wasn't this very rooted sense in like, oh no, this is sacred stuff we're dealing with. You know, it's just that Western mindset where I think a lot of Westerners go down there with that same mindset. Like I said, there are people going down there that have deep things they need to heal, whether it's depression, traumas, addictions are another big thing I know these plant medicines help a lot with. So there are people using it for that. But like I said, even the plant medicines in that manner, they're good for it. But I think its primary use is in a collective, in a tribe, in a group, you know, and downloading information that way, essentially. I wouldn't say I didn't like carry it with me after I had that experience. It carried with me through the rest of the trip because I had another encounter with ayahuasca too. That was a lot different, a lot more powerful, a lot more rugged. Like we were in a traditional indigenous mud kogi hut in Colombia, fire right in the middle, shaman, and we did like 3 days straight, and that shit got like heavy, got dark, got spiritual, got beautiful, got emotional. But it was definitely, I finished those 3 days, and I don't know what necessarily it healed me from, but I felt like there was a lot of healing that had went on in that ceremony, even if I wasn't aware as to what exactly it was healing.
Yeah, it's crazy whenever you I don't have any experience with ayahuasca, but I've done a little bit of research on it. And so the shamans, the two plants are not grown close to one another.
No,
like,
that's what blows their minds.
Like, it's like, how did they come across this? How did they have these two plants in their satchel or whatever? And like, you know what, we need to make a tea with these two plants. Like, it's crazy that they even figured that out.
Well, any researchers that have really spoke to medicine people or the medicine people I spoke to that get this information from their teachers and their lineage is that the jungle spoke to them, right? Or great spirit came to them in the form of jungle or in the form of animal. Because like you said, with ayahuasca, the Amazonas, there's like hundreds of thousands of different plants. And that was, I remember back when I'd first come across reading about ayahuasca, I read a research paper where one of the doctors was writing just that. He's like, it's just mind boggling how they figured to take this one plant, ayahuasca, because if you just consume the vine, your body has an inhibitor to where it'll inhibit the DMT structure within the ayahuasca. So it will have no effect. It has to be mixed with that other plant that actually inhibits the inhibitor in your stomach or in your gut. So the fact that they were able to figure that out of these hundreds of thousands of different plants is pretty mind-boggling. So that's where, yeah, I mean, the answer they gave is the jungle spoke to them. Spirit told them. It guided them.
And I know a lot of veterans, they're going to, the guys that are suffering with a lot of like really, really bad PTSD. I've heard countless guys that have done multiple tours overseas and just seen and done some of the, you know, just seen awful, awful things in humanity. And they're carrying just a heavy burden with them every single day, and they're struggling. And then they go down to the Amazon, and then they have, like you said, a couple days, an intense ayahuasca session, and they come back and they're a totally different person.
Yeah, and then it's, you know, it's the what's tough too is there has to be an integration part or like kind of a relationship with this too. You know, I'm not going to say that people haven't healed themselves, one off, go down, do it, come back, they're good. Usually there's a lot more work to be done, especially when traumas are that deep, right? It's not like, hey, you do this ceremony one time. It's like, hey, how do we integrate this? And like you said, make it a practice, bring these practices and integrate it into daily life, not necessarily taking the medicine, but what the medicine is teaching you. Yeah, and I think that's a very powerful thing that it can do. It has the power to heal these deep traumas, like you mentioned with soldiers, people going through really heavy traumatic shit. And we also live in a society that doesn't teach us how to express. It doesn't, especially as men. Being vulnerable, expressing. Boys don't cry, men don't cry. I've had multiple experiences. Even just recently, back in April, we did a ceremony during the eclipse. Like while the eclipse was in full totality over us, we were inside a teepee around a fire, just like chanting and praying. And dude, as soon as that darkness of the eclipse hit, it was the trippiest thing I'd ever seen. Like when it was coming, it just looked, because from inside the teepee, we could see outside, because the lineage of people I practice with, their teachers say it's not smart or good to be out in the light of the eclipse. So we stay inside the teepee. But dude, it was the trippiest gray color. I tell people it felt like, to me, the gray color I saw was reminding me, it was almost thinking of like the Grim Reaper's coming.
Wow.
Like death is coming. This darkness is coming. And it hit, and they started this very beautiful chant. And I just started, like, I was just weeping. And there's part of me in my head, I caught it too. That's like, oh, kind of pull yourself together. Like, like get with the chant or the prayer. And I was like, no, this is like purification. This is healing. And it's needed. And having those spaces, especially as like a grown man, it's important. We just did a men's sweat lodge too, just all men, and the importance of having that camaraderie as men, being able to be open and share and not worry about judgment from the other individual, because none of us are perfect. We've all done some fucked up things. We've all went through life. We can pick apart any person's life probably. So being able to have those spaces, I think, is important too. And it's something we don't have here in the West for a lot of people, especially those who are suffering from trauma. And they need that supportive space. Again, it's back to tribe. Like a lot of these men too that are coming back, war vets, lots of trauma, they're living on their own. They don't got people, man. It's sad. It sucks. And that's the importance of, like, I think the work we're doing with medicine and the collective and tribe is to do my best. Who knows, you run into someone, you smile, you talk about this, you have an impact on their life just from smiling and talking with them, or carrying that light, being more open, being authentic. I think people really need these kinds of things.
Why do you think,
especially in our Western world?
Why do you think these things are illegal over here? Because I mean, there's countless stories where people
money.
Do you think like Big Pharma got into it and was like, no, we can't have these people healing themselves? Because I've even heard like psilocybin, one session with psilocybin cures smokers at like 80%. You break addictions with psilocybin.
Well, you just answered your own question.
Yeah.
Why do you think Philip Morris don't want them to do it? They're lobbying. They're paying millions of dollars a year to keep it illegal so people will keep smoking. I mean, everything's done by money.
Well, you have that, yeah. And it's like, you mentioned these medicines too. I think what's really hard for pharmaceutical companies is to get a patent on some of these natural things.
Well, that's why marijuana is illegal, right? I mean, they can't patent it.
Yeah. And again, see, like these things are all, they're all medicines in their way. They can be used. And, that's another thing in the West, we tend to abuse things,
right.
Things like mushrooms. It's cool seeing them come into a clinical setting where it's like, hey, and I'll speak from experience. I took mushrooms and would go like, you go out and recreational use them. You go to a festival or, sometimes, it's going out in nature and things like that. But when you're able to put intention behind these medicinal plants that we know alter your mind state and your state of consciousness, which should be your right. You have a right to your Second Amendment, freedom of speech, things like that. Well, I should have the right if I want to alter my state of mind. It's my fucking mind. If I want to take a hallucinogen that you're saying is bad, like that's my right.
Right.
Just as it should be the right if I want to poke myself with a vaccine or not. Mm-hmm. That should be my fucking right. No one should be telling me whether or not I can do that. And when it comes to altering my mind state, government should not have control over that.
Yeah.
The fact that they do want to control that is, should make you question it.
That's exactly right.
Like you're doing.
That's whenever you're exactly right in the way that you said it. Like the reason that it is illegal is the reason that you should do your own investigation on it. Like, what are they hiding from us? And I think more people are waking up to it because they're starting to see just how corrupt our fucking government has been for the last hundreds, probably since 1776 or even before. And the fact that they're keeping this from us is a reason to do your own investigation and come up with your own determination.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's crazy too. Like the war on drugs, for example, right? That hasn't done shit.
Not a thing.
And it's like people
Made
are
it more
really
expensive.
have this. Yeah, it's like people have this mindset of, we legalize all these things. Like we legalize ayahuasca tomorrow, and all of a sudden everyone's going to have access to it, and everyone's going to be just tripping out on ayahuasca. It's like that's not what's going to happen. People. I do have a lot of faith and hope in most people that we do have good intention, that we do have a good moral compass. All religions teach the same shit. Mm-hmm. Everything. That's why I love this work I'm doing with medicine too, because they preach about the sacred wheel, or the wheel of life, where you have these different paths. They're all coming in from, it's like the cross, 4 directions. There's 4 different colors. All of these are rooted in different traditions, cultures, and religions, but they all have the same referent point. They all have the same center, which is God, Great Spirit, however you want to connect with that. And where was I going to go with this? Yeah, just in the West, where we have this idea like we legalize it and everyone's going to do it. I really think people have a better judgment than that. People know heroin's bad. Yes, are there going to still be people using heroin and addicted to it? Probably, but if we legalize it, I'm sure we'd clean a lot of issues up. Like we said, there's a lot of different people invested in these types of things, and this is known stuff. You have I think it was back in the 90s. I forget the exact case. It was something with the Contras in Nicaragua and the journalist out of California near the San Jose area who exposed the CIA for like backing these Contras in Nicaragua and supporting like the crack epidemic.
Yeah.
And like, this is well-known, documented shit, so drugs aren't that, I don't think drugs are the problem. It's what we don't see going on behind the scenes, who's running them, who's supporting it, who's funding it. Cause I think our government is probably involved in this stuff, and it has been in the past. So why wouldn't it be today?
Yeah.
I'm for,
and again, it comes down to greed and power. People are making a lot of money off of these illegal things. Mm-hmm. And I think they want to continue to do that as well. Hence why, certain bills get passed and other stuff.
I'm like the ayahuasca, or however you pronounce it. I'm sure I pronounced it wrong.
Ayahuasca.
I understand why they don't want it everywhere, because there's some people that have really bad trips on this stuff. And I understand. I got that. That could probably needs to be under a controlled environment. Heroin, I have mm-hmm. no reason for them to legalize heroin, methamphetamines, or nothing like that.
But what if you could get like a license to administer this?
Why do people? I don't understand why anybody needs to take heroin.
I don't either.
Okay.
But I'm not.
And the same with methamphetamines. I don't think they should be legalized.
But I don't think making it legal tomorrow, all of a sudden, you're going to have a bunch of new heroin addicts.
Right.
I would agree with you on that.
You are having people using it right now. It's running rampant in the streets. You see it amongst the homeless. People using needles, whether it's meth, heroin, crack, whatever it may be. Yes, it is dirty. It's filthy. It's a bad substance. So this comes down to like a couple simple things: proper education. Educating our youth, which we know education system is pretty out of whack here in the West too, as well. Hence why a lot of people homeschool and pulling their kids out of public school.
It's everywhere now.
Yeah. So it's that education, and then like if things aren't labeled as legal and illegal, like I guess you're right. Maybe with some they do need to stay illegal for a certain reason, but I don't know. I don't know the exact answer to that, like how we should move forward with like legalizing certain drugs and other ones being legal. I know with things like, you mentioned ayahuasca and people having a bad trip. I'm one who believes when it comes to things that are giving you a hallucinogenic journey of some sort, or altering your state of consciousness, I don't look at anything as good or bad in that realm. It's especially with ayahuasca, medicine is going to give you what you need at that time, but then also who's facilitating it. This is where, again, the Western mindset, I'm going to go take ayahuasca. I'm very fortunate, and I'm not speaking here as a place of judgment or righteousness, like, hey, the way I'm using it is better than someone else. I'm just very fortunate to have been, brought on this path to a group of people that have very sacred and deep lineage in the proper use of these medicines. And so, yeah, now you see it being used. People, Westerners, they go experience ayahuasca and they're like, oh my God, my calling's to be a shaman. And so now they're bringing ayahuasca up here to the West, and they're running these circles, and something fucking happens to someone, and this dumbass who's only done ayahuasca a handful of times but thinks it's his calling to serve it has no clue how to handle it because he doesn't have any experience with it, hasn't done enough himself, hasn't worked with the proper medicine man to guide him and teach him, because that's why we need teachers. These people are, the guy I work with, he's sat in hundreds of ceremonies next to his teachers, seeing how the space needs to be held, seeing when negative energies are coming into the space, how do you get rid of those? Seeing when someone's struggling, like how do you tend to that person and what they need? Because the shaman's doing the medicine with you too. He's not just sitting there sober, stoically watching everyone. He's with the medicine, he's guiding, he's going on the journey with you. So it's a lot of these bad trips, quote unquote bad trips you hear about, more often or not are because of that. You have improper facilitation. The ayahuasca might even be janky in of itself. Like, who the fuck brewed the ayahuasca? This is where, like, people will brew it and then they travel with it. If you're really deep in this esoteric work and spiritual work of what these guys are doing, that ayahuasca is now interacting with a bunch of different energies around it. Proper cooking and brewing of this stuff is done over days. It's prayed over, it's chanted over. There's a lot of intention. There's no one angry or stressed making this stuff. It's a very sacred process. So when I hear these horror stories about it, I'm sure, it was probably shitty. It was probably a really bad trip. But also that's partially your fault for just going to seek a trip, meeting in some random stranger's house, having someone you don't know serve you this psychedelic medicine.
Right.
And then you have a shitty trip. It's like, kind of fuck around and find out.
I've never heard of anyone selling their kids for ayahuasca, but meth and heroin and all that other stuff. No, that's true. I see people selling everything,
that's a good point.
Stealing everything. And as a retired judge, I had to deal with a lot of people that was on a lot of that shit. And we don't need heroin and meth. I used to be 10 years ago. If you'd have told me about marijuana, I'd have said, yes, it needs to stay illegal. I'm completely opposite now. I think marijuana has a lot of really good values that we could get out of it. The reason it's illegal is because you can grow it in your backyard, and you can't grow hydrocodone in your backyard, and you can't grow morphine in you might morphine. I don't know where morphine exactly, it comes from opium, right? But marijuana is something you can grow and cultivate and do in your backyard, and they can't make a dime off of it. The government can't tax it in your backyard, and Philip Morris can't control it, make a profit off of it. That's why that's illegal. Heroin.
And it's sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. And yeah, being illegal too, this is where I think there's a lot of shit going on behind the scenes that we don't see. It's like, we see at our level these very bad drugs, methamphetamines, heroin. We have the dealers in the streets, the gangsters, the groups dealing them. But it's like, when we start digging deeper into this, where is all this really coming from? Who's running and operating this shit at this high level and getting it distributed into our streets? Is it really just these thugs?
No, it's the CIA and the cartel.
Smarter, and that's what I'm saying. So it's like, I understand keeping them illegal, but it's like, hey, that's not going to solve the root of the problem. And in all cases, when it comes to ourselves or as a collective people and system, is you need to get to the root of the problem to fix it. And we live in a world that loves to just slap Band-Aids on shit, even in the health world. In my field of movement, a physical movement, someone's told they got flat feet, they need arches, they're given an insert in their shoe to put in, as opposed to, hey, let's actually figure out how to redevelop and strengthen your foot and arch, as opposed to just sticking a Band-Aid on it. I got people as young as 28 coming to me with sciatic pain, where they go in to see the doctor, he does a scan of their back, and as opposed to sending them to see someone, he just straight gives them an injection right away. And then we see it at this level, right? As opposed to finding and really solving the root cause of this problem. No, we'll just make it illegal, but it's illegal and you still see the shit everywhere. It's still affecting thousands of people, millions of people. So like, how do we really get to the root cause of these problems? And again, I think you said the hard thing is when it's the government backing some of these things, that's where the issue is, because they're the police and the felons.
I'll tell you, someone that's pushing real hard to keep marijuana illegal is the cartels. They're big on that.
100%. And they're making billions of dollars.
And that is why we are starting to see people that are having fentanyl overdoses from marijuana. They're lacing it with fentanyl. Well, you know what? If the cartel puts some fentanyl in there and they kill a few people, or they get these people addicted to this other stuff, they're making more money because they don't want it to become legal. They just saw breaking news where they shut the southern border down. Biden just signed an executive order just now. That's going to play a big factor in all this stuff right now. And I don't know how much the border, I don't know if they're putting a lock and key on it, but we're trying to buy votes right now. And that's what we're going to do to try to buy some votes after 15 million people come across in 3 years. So now we're going to try to buy some more votes. But that's going to play a major role in a lot of this drug stuff. If they really shut the border down completely and wanted to, they would make a big deal. The CIA don't want it done because they're getting money. The cartel don't want it done because they're paying our politicians and they're making money. They don't care about me and you. That's why most of this stuff.
Well, even if it's shut down, there'll be ways it'll still get into the country. You know? I mean, and this stuff is leaking into everywhere. We have just recently in our hometown, over the last year, we've had handful of young, well-known kids in our community die from fentanyl overdose. You know, and those are the big arguments of like, oh, well, you shouldn't be doing drugs. And it's like, I think back to when I was messing around with certain things like, hey, if I knew there was this fentanyl going around, would I even mess around and risk the chance of doing that stuff? Obviously, I'm not that age anymore. So these are heavy things and heavy topics, and they're hitting communities all over the U.S. It's not just isolated to one spot.
You want to make some money? I tell you, a money maker is you figure out how to find something that, what's the word I'm looking to? Finds fentanyl in something that can, what am I looking for here? It not attracts fentanyl, but shows that there's fentanyl involved in something.
Oh, like a
detector, a tester. Yeah, that's
I'm
losing.
They have. I think they're selling test kits, but the thing I think that's hard with fentanyl is like all it takes is they say like smaller than a grain of salt. So it's like, you're testing a batch of something and you're just testing one piece of that. You're not testing the whole batch. So it's like, well, that little piece you took could be clear, but what about the rest of the stuff people are ingesting and taking in?
And I don't understand that because I've heard the same thing with a grain of salt. Because if you go to the hospital, fentanyl's an actual medicine that they give you for pain and stuff. There's a lot of people that have had it. It's never had a problem at all, but it's a controlled environment. They're buying it from a controlled source. They know how much fentanyl's in each deal. But if enough in a grain of salt will kill you, how the hell do they break that grain of salt down enough to make it where it doesn't kill you? That's what
it's just super diluted down. Who knows? I haven't read into it that much. So,
but it's a bad deal. But now these young kids, and I say kids because it's adults in it or older people too, but they're seeking out fentanyl now, and all they're doing is playing Russian roulette. It's just a matter of time if you're buying fentanyl off the street and you know you're getting fentanyl that you're going to die from it.
Yeah, but I mean, going back to the legalization argument, if some of these things were legal and you got it from a distributor, you would know what you were buying. You would take that bullet out of the chamber in the Russian roulette.
I don't know why we need fentanyl
because it's regulated.
Huh?
I don't know why we would need fentanyl on the street.
No. I'm just going to you said marijuana is now being laced with fentanyl.
I'm all for legalizing marijuana.
If it was legal in all 50 states, you would not have to buy it from your drug dealer on the corner, and you would know what you were about to take.
Well, I'd be a hypocrite because I take a CBD gummy every night because it helps me sleep. And if we had, it's great. I take it all. I mean, it makes me, it's asleep. I've also got the roll-on the salve. Hemp Hill Farms, one of our sponsors, they have the CBD. I use their salve and their roll-on. If I got an ouchie, knee sore, whatever it is, I think it should all be legal, and I think it should be regulated and legal, but I hate being our government involved with anything.
Yeah.
Because they screw up every freaking thing that happens and the price goes up. So, I mean, anything that they get involved with is going to be bad. You got to pay for that
stamp.
Yes. So I don't want them involved, but it's something that should be legal, just like alcohol's legal. I can't imagine. I look back now at the times of prohibition. Could you imagine today if you come in and you shut down all liquor sales in this country, all alcohol sales? You think we got problem with some tweakers on a Huffy bike riding around with methamphetamines? You take it down selling beer for a week, and violent crimes are going to go up by a ton.
Well, and I mean, how many people died during Prohibition to bathtub gin or went blind?
Oh, yeah, there's going to be all kinds of people making hooch at their house.
You know what I mean? But it wasn't regulated, so people were dying from this gin that they were just making in their bathtub because the mixture wasn't right. but they legalized it, and now you got to drink a bunch of it, but still a lot of people dying from alcohol.
There's more. Alcohol's the most dangerous drug in the world. Alcohol is by far the worst.
And it's legal.
100. Yes, you can go to any drugstore or any corner market you want, and you can get your beer, and you can go to a liquor store and get that bottle of whiskey that can kill you if you drink enough.
I mean, shit. It was essential during the pandemic.
Yeah,
right.
Alcohol and tobacco are the two hardest things to get over because they're so easy to get.
Right,
and that's the biggest problem with them.
So I heard something really interesting recently. They're using nicotine as a way of treating ADHD. There's a property in nicotine that will, if you have ADHD and I think something else, it will curb your whatever you have whenever you're ADHD. So that got me thinking. I wonder if one of the reasons that we're seeing a rise in ADHD is because we have gone to such great lengths to keep tobacco away from children, and now we're seeing this rise. Whereas back in Jeff's day, he's 50, it was a lot easier you saw the kid smoking and the high schooler smoking, but you didn't have ADHD like you do now.
Well, no, we had some slow kids, and we had some kids had some problems. The problem is the society is too much of pussies just to just muster through some shit. There's some problems we have that we try to medicate too damn much. A hyper-ass kid is just a hyper kid sometimes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We find,
you try to sit a kid down in a room under fake lights, inside all day, like you know, you're asking for something to go wrong.
We had some slow kids, I'm sure, growing up in our neighborhood in our school, and we had one chunky kid. We could get tobacco. I could go buy cigarettes for my mom when I was in third grade, if no problem at all. Walk in the store, she'd give me a couple of bucks, come out with a couple of pack of cigarettes. Kids, when I was in second and third grade, dipped in my elementary class. Maybe one or two of them have had some cancer that I don't know of any of them that have, though. But society was just a lot different. But we didn't try to find a Band-Aid for everything that was wrong with you. People didn't go to the doctor all the time either. If you were sick, you stayed home. You didn't go to a doctor. Nowadays, you tell somebody you're sick, would you go to the doctor? Well, fuck no, I don't want to go to the doctor. I got cold or the flu, you know?
I got it. My immune system's my doctor.
You don't go to the doctor all the damn time.
No, and there's a place for it, you know, and I like how you're talking about back in your time when you were a kid, differences, because these are things I've talked to my pops about too. It's like, you even think about just the difference in ingredients in food, or the difference in, let's say, back in 50s and 60s, a McDonald's hamburger, like the difference between that hamburger and a hamburger for 2024 that's coming from, a CAFO feedlot, the beef originally back in the 50s that was still probably produced on smaller type of farms, not mass farms where cows are cramped, they're filled with antibiotics, steroids. They're fed corn, hay, like all this stuff they're not designed to eat. So yeah, I would say the quality has changed tremendously, and you could see that in the generations where there is a little bit more robust health, and the newer generations are constantly getting sick, especially from this COVID too. We'll see what happens with these years coming up. But I know I've talked to many parents whose kids it sounds like kids are constantly sick in school, or having to take their kid out of school, and these kids are supposedly, you're all vaccinated and you're not supposed to get sick. So it's like, what the hell's going on?
I saw a stat the other day that someone my age, my grandson that's 4 years old, or is he 5? Jamison's 5.
5.
My grandson's 5. He's had
it's
more
got the same name.
He has same name. He's had more vaccines in his life than I have mine. He's 5. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just, and we turned out okay, and we went through the polio scare. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's crazy. But the government's involved because it's all about making money. Somebody's making some money on selling shit. And another thing too that thinking about, when I was a kid, what you had for if you went and bought a soda? We didn't have bottled water, so people drank more soda, I bet, when I was a kid than they did today. But nothing had corn syrup in it. It was all with pure cane sugar, which is not great for you, but it had sugar in it. And it also, everything came in a glass bottle. Mm-hmm. And I think that glass is healthier than plastic and aluminum.
Yeah, or aluminum. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But everything was if you bought beer, you bought it in a bottle of beer. Now, they did have some canned beer and they did have some canned Cokes, but most everything came in a bottle. Everything did. The stores didn't have plastic. Everything was a glass. If you bought mayonnaise, you got it in wasn't just squeeze shit. You had to use a damn knife and get it out or a spoon. And everything now is plastic.
Yeah, it's interesting. And, that's a good point too, because it's like, another thing being in the health industry and the health world with things that are trending. And obviously, it's like, it's good, healthy trends. It's good things, right? But as your average everyday person that's just starting this journey, it can seem like a lot, like, oh, don't drink your tap water. Don't drink cans of soda or plastic bottled water. You're getting plastics from this, that, and the other. Now it's like, something I'm starting to just do myself a little bit is be a little more aware of the clothes I'm putting on my body too. Cause it's like, we're wearing polyester and plastic all day. My briefs are made of polyester and then I go run and sweat in them all day. So it's like, how much of that is getting absorbed into my skin, which is, again, super porous, one of the largest organs in the body. And so, yeah, it's tough because, like, again, earlier we were talking about the system isn't really trying to support your overall health and well-being. And when you start to go on this path, it seems very daunting. But as I tell with all my clients, it's like, just start with something small that you can attack and aim for small wins. Because if you try to take this broad, like, I got to change my clothes, I can't have plastic, I can't have chemicals in my house, I got to drink purified water. Like, I think that too,
it's too much.
This mentality is like, it's too much, but that in and of itself can create disease and stuff within the body.
Right.
Like, even talking about pain, there's like, even the science of pain, we're not sure exactly what pain is. They've done scans of thousands of people and saw degeneration along their spine somewhere. All the people in the study were asymptomatic to pain. So it's obviously, just some malformation in the body isn't going to cause the pain. They talk about doctors even diagnosing people, and then we start attaching an associating to that diagnosis could make things worse. The mind is very powerful.
Yeah.
So it's like, there is a lot against us. So I always try to tell people, just start with small little wins, maybe getting your water purified or just drinking more water, period. Some people, that's where the starting place is. All they drink is like sugar, soda, coffee, and, all their drinks out of cans and bottles. So it's like, hey, let's just start with drinking water.
Yeah.
That's going to be your win for now.
Yeah. Small steps. I think people, like you said, people want to fix everything all at once, and that's not easy. Just like you said, start with drinking more water and move 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes at night. Call that good for 6 weeks. And if you feel like you can do more, then go find something else that you want to attack. But don't try to do everything at once, because then, like you said, you've got all this bombardment of negative emotion. Like, crap, I can't have that. I can't have that. That's going to kill me. 2 wins.
And then you fail and falter back.
Yeah. And then you feel like shit because you failed.
And then, yeah, exactly. And it's, in the fitness world too, it's really funny because the population that's looked at for like physical health and wellness and overall well-being, people look at like the bodybuilding and fitness community when it's like, this is just a small group population of people that just love to sweat and work out. And yeah, they're a little more infatuated with these, vanity muscles like chest and abs. And I was there, I was a bodybuilder, trained purely for aesthetics. It was good. But at a certain point you realize like, that's not fulfilling at all. And now it's, humans now, your average Joe looks at dude with big chest, big biceps and abs and feels like shit because he thinks that's how he's supposed to look when it's like very far from the truth. Yes, we should be healthy. We should be lean. Every body is different. There's no like this perfect image of what ideal health is. Ideal health is based on the individual. We all have bio-individuality. We were talking about diet earlier. Like, all these things are different for everyone. And what is up to is taking control of that and start taking a step down that path and that journey of better health and experimenting and changing patterns and habits. But that's the hard work. Hence why most people go home, open a bag of chips, pop a beer, sit on the couch and watch their TV after work, because it's easier to do that than to walk the path of taking care of yourself, mind, body, and spirit.
Now, when I was in Lake Tahoe and I met you, you told me that you go jump in the lake, because I was told you can't even hardly swim in that lake. It's so cold. And that's your normal deal. You go in there all the time, don't you?
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to I go to that coffee shop a lot because my friend owns it, and I was talking to him the other day how I was going to be on your podcast, because it's kind of funny. I think I ran into you that morning. Because what I'll do is I'll go jump in the lake, and it's a habit that's like sometimes I'm called to it. There's been times I won't jump in the lake. There was, a 2-year stint where I was going in almost every day throughout the winter. It was like a very good practice for me personally. You have, again, cold water plunging is a trend right now, which is cool. But I've been on it for probably like 10 years messing with it now. But it's built and growing into this process that is more of like a spiritual thing for me than it is like physical benefits of, getting leaner, decreasing inflammation. It promotes more brown adipose tissue, which is, it burns more energy, things like that. It has many physical benefits. But for me, I think the benefits I like most about it are the discipline aspect, the discipline that helps me cultivate when, waking up at 6 a.m. and it's cold outside, or sometimes it's fucking snowing and it's windy. And I told myself the night before I'm going to go in the lake, and it's like, hey, are you going to do what you said you're going to do? Or are you going to the Goggins voice kicks in? Are you going to be a little bitch? And I've never regretted going that length once, even days where I'm really resisting it, I get in, I get out of that thing, and I'm like, thank you, God. It's like, it's a very powerful thing. And like I said, it has a myriad of benefits, physically, mentally, emotionally, dealing with stress. I think that's where it's a very beneficial thing. And again, it's not for everyone. I would never take an overweight, average, obese human being and tell them to go dunk in cold water, because it probably caused more harm than good.
There you go. That's why I'm not doing it.
It's a mix, and these are practices. And I'd met you. It's funny because I get out of the lake and I just wrap my towel around my waist and I throw my snow boots back on, and then I'll go to the coffee shop. And it's funny. I know people always wondering, like, what is this guy doing in a towel? The couple waitress girls that work at the Red Hook Cafe, as I walk in, they always see me and like give me this funny look because I got a towel on. But Jeff was the first person that actually like approached me about it. So it's kind of funny. He's like, were you just in the lake? And I was like, yeah, actually I was. And that's how our conversation started. And that's how I ended up here.
Yeah. I talk to people everywhere I go. I visit with people, and you're different than I am. And I could tell that when I saw you in the towel, and I knew that, but I wanted to know your story. And you're a brave man. But everybody was telling me there, oh, you can't get in the lake at all because even in the summer it's too cold. And then here's this guy walking up with the towel. It's snowing out.
Just got out of the lake.
Snowing. It was a lot of snow.
Oh, dude, we'll be outside sometimes. It's funny because we try to go early because it's funny. You go in that lake and it like draws attention. People see it, like when me and my girlfriend will go together sometimes. And when we go a little later in the day and there's people on the beach, someone's filming you.
Right. Right.
And someone's got the camera like, oh my God, this is so cool. And I'm like, oh, I'm not doing it to be cool. I'm just like, This is a nice like little practice. I like, I have a relationship with this lake, and I was born and raised here. This lake is massive. Me and my friend, when we first started going in it, we'd go at 10 o'clock at night, and it was an absolutely like special time because we know for a fact there's probably no one else in that water except us.
Right.
And we're like in her embrace, and it's this source, like pure energy. So yeah, there's a lot to it than just the physical aspects, from my experience at least.
When you see things like the cold plunge getting popular, are you like, that was my thing? You know what I mean? Like, stay away from it. Stay out of my damn lake.
That's funny. It's funny you say that. There's definitely is this thing like, oh, I was doing it before.
Yeah.
Like these trends were all something big, and wishing like, there's those little thoughts of like, oh, I could have, because you see people try to make money off of these things too.
Right.
Whether it's like selling a cold plunging routine or a cold plunge tub, and everyone's making different tubs that they're selling. I'll catch like those little thoughts come in, but for the most part, I think it's good. Like these healthy trends are a good thing up to a certain point though too, right? It's like, you get someone who's overweight trying to lose weight, and they hear someone saying, oh yeah, I cold plunge and it helped me lose weight, this, that, and the other. And then they go do it, and then they have a negative experience with it, because it could throw someone into a cardiac arrest. Right. That's severely overweight, jumping into really cold water. It could have a negative benefit. And, back to Jeff, how you mentioned people say like, oh, it's really cold to jump in. And that's the first thing, even with locals here in town. When you tell them you jump in the lake, I think the number one response I get from people is like, oh, don't you get hypothermia? And I'm like, well, I guess I've never gone into the water worrying about hypothermia. Mm-hmm. Again, back to like the mind state. If you're about to go into cold water and you're really resistant to it, and all in your mind you're thinking is like, oh, I hope I don't have hypothermia, like what that will create in your experience. And I tell people, like, I park my car down by the lake. I get in this cold water, even if it's cold as shit and storming, like a brutal day out. I know my car's in the parking lot, so there's warmth. It's right there. It's not like you're going in this lake and you don't know when you're going to get hot again,
Right.
or like you're out in the fucking Arctic and you could potentially freeze to death. You know, the risk of death is a very, 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 very minute. I'm not going to say it's absolutely non-existent. It's very, very minute, though. You know, we're modern man. I can get in the lake. Worst comes to worst, I get home and I can stand in front of my heater and I shiver for a half hour. Shivering, that's a good thing, though. Then I'm burning calories,
Right.
so it's like it's not that bad.
How long do you stay in the water?
This year, you know, I've gone up as high as 10 minutes has been my longest, but I find my sweet spot. I aim for like 3 minutes.
Are you
3 minutes is where you get like the good physiological benefits. You know, the 2 weeks of that in a row straight, and even I notice, like, I'm a lean guy already. I'm not super light, but I tend to stay fairly lean from running and stuff. But I'll even notice 2 weeks straight of that, like I'll get even more shredded down and leaned out from the cold water, just from the, you know, the shivering aspect. It burns a lot of calories in the cold water. And what you're kind of doing to your body.
Are you diving in or are you walking in? Because getting past the old ball sack is a tough fucking deal to walk in.
Yeah, that is hard. I walk in and then I kind of just drop in below my shoulders. I wear a beanie on. Sometimes I'll dip my whole head under. You know, people say that's where like dipping your whole head into is like apparently a thing that it does for the cold plunge. I'm not really sure.
It's supposed to be.
I'll do it every
It's better for you to get all the way. Like I would dive all the way in.
Apparently,
there's no way I could
get it
walk
over
in.
with.
Fuck yeah, jump in and get it over with. I do that in my pool in my backyard.
Right.
Screw that shit. I ain't walking in. I'm plunging my ass in there, cold or warm.
I did it this last hunting season, but I did it from the aspect of I've heard about the energy that you get from it. So I would take a cold shower every morning. That was my routine.
Better than coffee.
3:15 wake up. 3:15 alarm goes off. I'm allowed to snooze at one time. So then I'm up about 3:25 ish, and then it's straight into the shower, all the way on cold, and just I'd pick a song that day, and then when that song was over, shower off, towel off, and get dressed for the day. So I did it from the aspect of I know I'm going to be tired. Like it's a long season and it's a lot of hours. So I want something that can give me that little boost. So that's why I did it.
Oh yeah, that'll sure boost your energy. And I tell people too that, you know, especially doing that first thing in the morning, you know, if that's how you start your day, the rest of the day is going to be easy, man. If you're starting your day off with something a little uncomfortable, something you don't want to do, that you're a little resistant to. I said it's never fun. You never wake up at 3:15. I'm sure I was like, yes, I got to go into my cold shower this morning. Like, it's never like that. It's the same thing with running, like my relationship with running.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a part of me that loves it because it's this game of like, hey, how far can I go? How much can I push my body? That goes into pushing your mind. So you get into these like uncomfortable states. Like when I ran around the lake 2 years ago, I got 50 miles in and was feeling so good and was so stoked. But then 2 miles later, I fucking just like hit a wall. And it was 20 miles of pure fucking suckfest. And I pushed through it though.
Yeah.
And it's like people see that as insane. It's like, yeah, that is a little insane. It's not as insane as like, you know, you hear stories of Goggins, or I just had a homie do a 250-mile race. That's fucking insane. I've never ran that far in my life. I don't know if I will. I know I want to attempt 100, but yeah, it's those like these little things of whether it's a physical or like the cold shower, the running and the points of uncomfortability. There's lessons in all of it, right? And it cultivates a little bit more discipline by tapping in to that. You know, it's a very common saying now, you know, get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well,
you know, it's an important thing to do because life, and that's going to set you up very well when unexpected challenges come up in life. You know, like I heard David Goggins put in the way, people ask him why he does what he does. And he's like, because I want to be prepared when I get that phone call in the morning that my mom passed away. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to break. Like, and again, he says like grieving, of course you want to grieve and, you know, you have that whole process, but it's like, you know, being strong for life, because life isn't easy. And it's easy for us as Westerners, as we see, you know, there's a lot of turmoil and shit going on in the world where we can be in a lot shittier of a place. So, you know, doing these uncomfortable things, I think in a world of Western society where we do see a lot of comfort, and I think comfort breeds dis-ease. Mm-hmm. You know, just from my physical aspect of working with the body, it's, you know, my house, you come in here, there's no chairs, there's no couches, you're sitting on the floor. You're resting how your body was designed to rest, because over time, chairs, shoes, beds with pillows, these things of comfort end up causing physical disease in the body.
Yeah. So what shoes do you use? Because I've noticed on your Instagram, most of your workouts, you're doing it barefoot, or there's somewhere you're running where you've got on a different shoe. But I mean, basically, from what the little bit of research I've done on shoes, you're basically putting your foot in a cast every day.
Yep, exactly. Can you give me just 1 second? I use the restroom.
Yeah, I got a P2, so this works out great. Whew.
All right.
Been holding on to that for a while.
Yeah, same.
So footwear.
Shoes. Well, since I got up, I just grabbed a couple pairs real quick. I'll show you my favorite. I've been using these shoes now for the last 10 years, and this exact model are my favorite pair. I've tried a lot of their shoes out, but these Vibram 5-finger toe shoes. Yeah. They're just like a foot. I like these because they can keep the toes spaced. Like, as you mentioned, most shoes, they kind of like squish the toes in. I'll actually show my clients, I'll take a rubber band and rubber band my toes together just to show them, like, our feet are designed to splay out.
Yeah.
But we got them stuffed inside a shoe all day, just squishing the foot. So a lot of my work, starting with clients too, is working on feet, their foundation, and getting the hips back. And, starting with things like changing up your shoe wear can make a huge difference. I know from the last few years now, because I've worn those Vibrams, but the last few years I've gotten into more like retraining the foot and the foundation, retraining the arch. So I've changed even more my footwear, like my running shoes I wear, my Ultras are all more like wide toe box, 0 drop, so there's no heel lift. And then Vivo Barefoot, these are my other favorite pair of shoes too. I'm not sponsored by any of these people. I just like these shoes. Right. Vibrams, I do have a little, if you or any of your listeners are interested, I do have discount code and affiliate with them. But what I've noticed the last couple of years, my foot's grown. I went from a size 11, 11 and a half to now I'm upwards to a 12, 12 and a half.
Really?
My toes are starting to splay more. My toes are starting to spread. Yeah, my foot's grown. It's a whole size. It's pretty cool to see.
And so does any of this work like help with back aches and like hip aches and stuff? Because
oh yeah,
I mean, you're seeing
that's my primary work.
Is with backs and hips.
Mm-hmm. Backs, hips. Again, most of the chronic pain your average everyday individual suffering from, and what we teach from my background, actually certified coaches with a couple other colleagues through Primal Movement, and we do slow motion video assessments of your walking and standing postures and a couple different movements. And we show you how shoes and the modern day chairs and living environments have kind of thrown us into a more unsupportive standing posture and structure. So a lot of the stuff we teach is kind of giving you this blueprint to how your body was designed to move. And where did we get that blueprint? We got it from studying and watching indigenous people and babies move in slow motion, because those are two populations that don't suffer from the chronic pain and physical pain we have in the West. And when you start to watch a barefoot, butt naked indigenous person move, not only do they move different, but they're fucking built. And these guys aren't lifting weights. They're not squatting skinny barbells on their back. They're not deadlifting hundreds of pounds off the floor. They're just navigating their environment as they were designed. And again, that's what's changed mostly for us modern day humans is our environment. So like I tell people, we still have to sit in chairs. Unless you're like me or a couple of my friends and colleagues, like we sit in chairs like little kids. Right now I'm on the ground, resting in crisscross applesauce position or cross-leg. But teaching people, again, watch your kids sit on the ground. How do kids sit? They sit on their shins. They sit with one leg up, one shin down, and seiza or half seiza position, we call it. And these are natural positions for the body to rest in. I tell all my parents with kids, you never taught your kid to do that. Mm-hmm. They just did it. We all taught ourselves how to crawl and walk. So it's really taking our clients or taking my clients back through this process of like, hey, proper neurological and physical development. What does that look like? Yeah, I get people back on the ground. We crawl like babies again. To resync up the body, it's very good for syncing up the shoulders, spine, and hips, again, which have all got out of sync because we're sitting in chairs all day. We're slouched forward. The shoulders aren't only pulling forward, but the hips are pulling forward. And the most common problem we see is what we call a banana posture. You see it, it's where someone's hips are pushed way forward. It's almost like they're leaning backwards when they're standing. That's causing massive compression into the whole entire body. And everyone feels it differently. Sometimes it's ankles, knees, hips. for the most part, it's low back, SI, sciatic area. And it's crazy, man. I worked in the physical therapy realm for a while. I have a background in kinesiology. That's what I studied in school. And yes, I did learn stuff in books, but when I started watching people move in slow motion on camera, especially like a full-on sprint, I was like, dude, the shit I was looking at in books, this linear stuff they taught me is not relating to what I'm seeing on camera. Because what I'm seeing on camera is all over like spiraling of movement, just these beautiful rotations. And then you look at everything we do in a gym, it's all very linear based.
Right.
You know, the squatting, the pressing, the pulling, it's all super linear. It's all not natural at all. It's very far from it. You know, again, you're in a box, you're under artificial light. It's very far from natural, healthy movement.
And so your workouts, they focus on natural movement, just like you would see, or just like you would get from that toddler or that baby that's learning to walk.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's all mimicked. As soon as I started studying this was back during COVID, actually. It's funny, just to give you a little background on it. I was a big runner in high school. I ran cross country, mainly to like stay fit for baseball and football. And then living in San Diego, it's summer year round, so I could run all the time. When I moved back here to Tahoe, I stopped running for 5 years probably, except for the occasional sprints here and there, because I was able to stay fucking jacked and like look good just lifting weights. So I was like, why the fuck am I going to run? At this time now, I'm 32 years old. My mom is 65, and she was about to run her 5th Lake Tahoe marathon. And so here I am, 32, fucking jacked, fit, good shape. I was like, I'm running the marathon with you. I waited probably like till 5 months before the race to do my first training run. Like I said, it had been a while. I go for a run. I get back home. The next day I wake up. I could barely walk down the fucking stairs because my knee hurts so bad. And again, here I am. I'm like so confused as to why my knee hurt. Like so confused at this point. I'm working at a physical therapy office. They do all the checks to make sure it's good. I'm not tearing anything. There's no issues with cartilage or damage. They do all their palpating. Nothing wrong. They had even got me on their treadmill, and one of the therapists like filmed me from the back. She's like, yeah, I'm not seeing anything. So my stubborn ass signed up for the marathon and said to my mom I was going to run it, so I run it. And I run it. It's on asphalt, and I run it in these fucking barefoot shoes, these toe shoes. Dude, I was broken for like 2 weeks after that race. It was like mainly from the knees down, just shot. I almost went to the doctor after a week because my foot hurt so bad. I thought I'd like stress fractures in my foot. So shortly after this, I'm one within my own, line of work. I'm constantly trying to learn and educate myself. I work with people that are really physically broken. I don't know what it is, but I attract very physically broken people. So I'm always looking for like, hey, how can I help these people better? And I was starting to look into different movement systems, and I was looking at, I'm not sure if you know who David Weck is. He has the Weck method. He invented these little, they're called Bosu, the like half Bosu balls. You've probably seen them in a gym. It's like a black base with like a half ball on top. Yeah. So he's a gimmicky guy. He has a lot of cool business things he invented. And I remember my senior year, I actually met him in one of my classes. He came to speak. So I was looking at his method. There's this other one out there called Functional Patterns, and I saw some work they were doing with scoliosis that looked really good. And it's funny, as I'm looking into these two, I started asking them questions through their social media pages, and both of them blocked me. I honestly I wasn't being snarky. I was just asking basic questions on their system. And then there was this other system I was looking at called GOTA. And I reached out to them, had a couple good conversations with their coaches, and these were the guys that were doing the slow motion video analysis. That's where I learned this skill set from. And so, I end up running the marathon. I find the system. I start studying. I remember doing my first assessment on my own body. I filmed myself moving, running, sprinting through space. And as soon as I saw my foot and landing, I was like, that's why my fucking knee hurts. And since I've started recoding my body, filming myself in slow motion, like I said, I ran, I can go run. I got a race this month. I have a 50K in the end of June. I'll be able to run that race, which has 10,000 feet of elevation gain in the mountains. And the next day I'll be able to go for a run. I might be a little sore in muscles, but like I'll be able to run the next day. So it's gotten me to this point where I'm such a firm believer because I know it works in my body. When I find something, I'm going to test it before I go into the waters with my clients. So I learned this system, changed all my training. Since 2020, I haven't put a barbell on my back and squatted it. I haven't deadlifted a weight off the ground. As you can see, my body's not withering away. I still have muscle on me. So it's really got me to change my mindset on movement, which was one of like, you have to go to a gym. You need to do these heavy compound movements to stay fit, to stay healthy. You need to go 3 to 5 days a week, 60 plus minutes a day, whatever it may be. To now it's like, and also, is like the body split, like, oh, one day is going to be arms, one day is going to be back, then I'm going to do legs. And now it's changed to this whole different outlook on like life is movement. How are you moving through life? How are you standing in line at the grocery store? How are you walking to and from your car? Like weights are the last thing you need to worry about at this point, especially if you have chronic pain. But we live in a modern world where the chiro, the PT, all these people are, yes, they're helping people. I'm not bashing them in any way, but they're also telling people they need to strengthen in order to overcome their chronic pain. When most people are strengthening now on top of a faulty platform. That's exactly what I was doing. I was adding all this mass, all this strength on top of a shitty foot and ankle that wasn't operating correctly, that collapsed every time I'd move forward. And I thank God I never had any crazy injuries, because in sport, I'm sure you guys are big sport guys. You've seen this now across football and basketball a lot lately. Women's soccer recently is the non-contact catastrophic injury.
Yeah.
The Odell Beckham in the Super Bowl going to catch a just basic pass, turn, goes to cut, blows his ACL. That makes no sense that a multi-million-dollar high-end athlete is blowing his ACL without anyone touching him, just making a cut on the turf. And people want to blame the turf. They want to blame the shoe. They want to say people are dehydrated. They'll pull all kinds of bullshit excuses. But when you watch the mechanism of injury, so as much as I've watched this great movement in slow motion of indigenous babies, high-end athletes like Tom Brady, who played well into his 40s, he has the movement patterns. We also study a bunch of the non-contact injuries. And when you watch a ton of those videos, you see the same mechanism at play. And it's, in my opinion, I think it's avoidable.
So they could change that.
And it's the training that's causing a lot.
Right.
They could totally change it. Totally.
By getting away from these simple movements of, like you said, squat, deadlift, all that stuff. Incorporate different methods.
I think they could be married. I'm not going to either like say weightlifting is absolutely wrong, especially in a sport like football. You do need some mass. Like those are big boys hitting each other. You do need mass. And as of now, the best way to put on mass is with progressive overload through weightlifting. So there's a need for it. Now we have these guys doing a lot of Olympic weightlifting, for like power and stuff like that, and performance. But this is where now you look at these skill sets of Olympic weightlifting, which is a sport. It's its own sport. And here you have a football player now dedicating precious time to learn this skill set of an Olympic weightlift. You have pros coming out now. J.J. Watts just came out and was saying how he was telling his younger brother, don't waste as much time in your gym as I did. That's my advice to you, because you're already playing a brutal sport. You're beat up all the fucking time. And then you're going into a gym and breaking down your body even more with movements that don't necessarily translate to forward locomotion or locomotion based. So what I mean by that is walking and running. All sports, for the most part, are locomotive based. And we're doing movements and training patterns that are training the reverse opposite of that and actually causing more harm into the body. But like I said, I think there's a place you can marry them. It's just not overdoing the weightlifting. I think people get too bought into it. They put too much into it. And when you look at some of the best athletes in the games, they weren't dedicated their life to weightlifting. They were dedicated to their craft of their sport. Like Tom Brady, it's very well known that he had a very unorthodox trainer. They weren't in the gym doing fucking bicep curls, because that has nothing to do with being a high top tier quarterback.
Right. So your workout, are you doing more like kettlebell workouts, or you said you've kind of gotten away from the traditional barbell?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll use it. I guess my type of training, the best way to put it is more calisthenic based, push-ups, pull-ups, squats and stuff. If I want to add resistance, I throw a weight vest on my body now, as opposed to having some sort of external object. I put the weight vest on. I haven't been as on it as usually, but I usually do a Murph every Friday. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Murph workout through CrossFit.
What it's a
and
mile,
I do that just again because it's challenging.
It's a mile, 100 pull-ups. What's 100 pull-ups?
1 mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and then a mile run, all with the 20-pound vest.
Yeah.
You got to do this like in a month or what?
Every Friday.
Oh, you do in a day? You do all that?
I would do it every. I was doing it every. Oh yeah, in a day. Every Friday you do. I would do it.
What was your best time?
And my best time I got down to, I want to say, was like 41 minutes. I don't think I ever broke 40 minutes.
That's still good. That's booking it.
It's fucking hard, man. It's like, and again, it's in terms of like, if we're looking at what's optimal for the body, am I telling every average Joe to do that? No. Yes, I am a regular man. I'm nobody special. I'm not some high-end athlete. I'm not training these ultra races to go win them. I'm, like I said, I just like challenging myself.
Yeah.
I like pushing through hard stuff. Physically, I've always, even back when I look back to the days when I was lifting super heavy, deadlifting a few hundred pounds, pressing a lot of weight, training for aesthetics. Me and my friend, we call it iron. We heard it in the world of bodybuilding, iron therapy. It's a way to train. It's a way to get it out of your head. You have a bad day, throwing weights around is so fun, or getting physical in the body. Now it's just taken on a different form. I go run in the woods, and it's meditation for me now. I've seen that, sitting down in front of my little altar or outside and sitting and meditating, that's great. But my new form of meditation now is running out in the woods, out in nature. It's very healing. It's challenging. There's a lot of different aspects to it. I feel so good afterwards when I'm done. I thank God my body's not broken. Back when I was studying the slow motion video system, I was going out to New Orleans like every other month through COVID and the beginning of 21 because I wanted to really learn this shit. And that's where the head coaches, like the main guys, were. So I'd go out for every cert and we do what we call a lab weekend. So we'd bring in the new coaches that had been doing the online education. And that was another very eye-opening thing for me, was seeing how many trainers and people in the realm of physical health teaching other people were in pain themselves. Like I told you, I was seeking new methods to help my clients. I thank God I never blew out my knee or got an injury. I think the worst thing I had, I pulled my hamstring. This is funny. I was doing like sprints and deadlift intervals on the turf field, and I blew my hamstring out. It hurt so fucking bad. But it was kind of crazy how many people of all these coaches were coming to get certified, but realizing they were seeking knowledge to fix their bodies first because they're helping people, and they realize they kind of feel like a fraud. Like, hey, I'm having people train. My body feels like shit. It's tight. My hip hurts. My back hurts. My knee hurts. And the crazy thing about that is no one was looking to their movement modality for the issue, right? You have a great example of this is CrossFit. Our local CrossFit gym had a physical therapy office in the same fucking building. So you blow your back out doing a squat or deadlift, you go rehab yourself for, 4 to 6 weeks, and then your dumbass goes back to do the same fucking thing that hurts you.
Yeah.
Like there's no fucking comic, or it's the same thing with the yogi. Like, hey, my fucking hip hurts. And I got to be honest with them, be like, hey, you got to stop doing yoga for a month and give your body a break. Because it's everything you've been doing that's led you to this point of pain. Even your healthy Pilates or your yoga or your sport, whatever it may be, has led you to this point. Oh, you're a big weightlifter? Yeah, sorry, you're going to need to stop lifting weights for a month while we fix your body and then do what you did. If you want to go back to lifting weights, you can. But my recommendation, unless it's your sport, don't fucking do it. There's way better ways to take care of your body. And I like to use my body. It's kind of like a billboard for my business. It's my body is a product of how I move, how I eat, what I listen to, what I watch. It's a cumulative of all of that. And that's what people need to realize. Like physical and overall well-being is a multitude of factors. It's not just looking good with your shirt off.
Right. Very, very, very well said. Listen, man, we've gone over 2 hours here. It's been a hell of a ride. We appreciate you coming on here. And I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are full of shit and will tell you one thing, but do an opposite thing. And I can just tell by listening from you, you believe in the way that you're doing things, and I like that you try things out before you are like, yeah, this is a way that I think I can help you. I think that's important because there are a lot of frauds out there that are, telling you one thing and then just doing a total opposite of what they're preaching. So I appreciate that that you back it up.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that too. And
how can people get a hold of you if they want some of your wisdom?
The easiest way would probably be through my social media, my Instagram account, DeLallo_methods. I do have a Facebook page too, but I would say through Instagram is the best way to get a hold of me. I will be releasing, I haven't been into the online world. That's been my work the last year. It's been a slow process, but I will be releasing some online programs to help just your average day Joe, not crazy programs. Like my first one coming out, it's going to be a lifestyle program all about changing your home environment, some things to pay attention to while you're walking and standing throughout the day to help alleviate some of the pains you're feeling in your body. And then I'll have some like individual courses specifically for like, hey, healing and getting out of your chronic back pain, hip pain, knee pain, neck pain, so whatever it is, I'll have separate courses for that coming out soon. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And I appreciate you guys having me on.
A ton of fun.
And lastly too, the big thing too, I want to drive home to people is taking care of yourself is work, in all, whatever aspect you're looking at. If it's just the physical body, it takes work, it takes discipline. It's definitely not easy. Hence why everyone's not walking around like a Jack G.I. Joe action figure. But the other parts too, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual aspect, I think spirituality is an important time. We're at spiritual warfare right now. So tap into spirit however you perceive it at this moment in time. But that path of walking and bearing the light in a world full of a lot of darkness right now, it's tough, but it's really needed right now.
Yes.
So that's something we really need this lifetime.
100%. Be a beacon for people. Listen, Jamison, we appreciate you coming on here. We'd love to have you on again. It's been a lot of fun. And stay safe out there and keep moving.
Hey, Jeff, Andy, appreciate you guys, man. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. If I ever get to Tahoe again, we'll go have some dinner.
Reach out. Yeah, you got my number.
You can have some vegan.
I'll reach out when I'm in Texas.
You do that. You have some vegan, and I'm going to have some of that crab fried rice, the best meal I've ever had in Tahoe.
Hey, there we go. The Thai food. It's got the mixture of both.
Good. Thank you very much, my friend. God bless you.
See ya.
All right, you too. Cheers, guys. Later.
Good guy.
Interesting person. I knew this would be right up your alley. Really cool dude.
Right up my alley.
Yep. That's why you stop and visit with strangers.
Although I do have a bit of a hip issue. Probably the way that I'm moving.
Yep.
I don't know.
You want to lay on your belly and me step on your back a few times?
No, it's my hip.
Okay. Well, yeah, that'll fix your hip.
No, it won't. It's if I plant my right foot and turn left, there's something going on in there.
I got out of whack about 2 weeks ago, and I was going to go to the chiropractor, and he's not working here no more.
Right.
And luckily it went away. Took me a lot of roll on from Hemp Hill Farm. Got me going again. Now I'm fine. All right. Thank y'all for listening to us. We're going to have a Father's Day giveaway. Andy will be posting all that on our social media, some different things we're going to have given away for a Father's Day gift. So thank y'all very much. Remember your dads. If you're a woman listening to this or a kid, your dad wants something, that Steel Reserve Hunt on Boss, November 18th, 19th, and 20th. Great deal. Great way to meet a lot of other podcast listeners. So anyways, holler at us if we can help you at all. Thank you very much. God bless you and peace out.
Watch for deer. Check out all of our great sponsors. Mitch Hall, if you're in our area and you need a Chevrolet, Mitch Hall can set you up. Mallard Bay, Hemp Hill Farm, use our promo code BHP25. Pacific Calls, promo code there is BHP25. MLR Graphics, Boss Shot Shells, Dive Bomb Industry, Dirty Duck Coffee, Shin Gear, Looking Glass Podcast, Lucky Duck, Ducks Unlimited, Mossberg, Double T British Kennels, Alpha Outdoor Specialties, and Stanfield Outfitters.